Hold on. Here we go.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Yes, I am feeling much better tonight, so thank you for all your cares and concerns. We got a great show. Mark Marinaccio is here. We're going to get into UFOs, paranormal, ghosts, cryptids, Skinwalker Ranch, and everything in between. But first, we're glad to have all of you here, starting off with Race Fan in the gold medal position, and B in the silver, Laura Lobbs taking the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Luscious Jules, Michael Morris, and Forrest Louie. Forrest Louie will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Robert Lamoth, how are you? Dino Bravo, Lightwalkers, the lovely and talented Kira, how is it going? Chef Chris, Race Fan, and Paul Demon, Chris716, thank you for joining us. Deer Slayer, Spencer, Vash the Impaler, and Lee the Bee, good to have you here. Tokeland, Nikki in Seattle, and Brown Dwarf. Good to see you all here. Hi, Jimmy Gonzalez, Jennifer Patterson, and Desert Rat. Tim Mothman, how you doing? Good to have you here. And Lulu Bell, thank you for coming on in. Let's scroll on down because I know it's packing up in here. Eternity Eternal, Pixie Lara, thank you for joining us. Tokeland, W. David Page, and Pony Pong, good morning to you. Millennium, my man, thank you for coming on in. Michael Godbold, thanks for joining us. Hi, Nina Williams and Thomas Rock. Just another guy named Harry. Good to see you. Jeeves, thanks for coming on in as we continue on with a roll call tonight. Hi, Ange and Aussie Ange in Australia. Susan Lawrence in Indiana. Thank you for coming on in on Facebook. And Kathleen Hughes, good to see you. Richard Elmore, thanks for joining us. Rayfin is back. Rayfin will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. JSCO, good to see you. And Pix, Susan Alloway, and Strange Story. Welcome to SOR Chat. Continuing on, I think that's you, Mark, isn't it? Strange Story? That's you. Yeah. Snuck one in there on me, my man. Scott Blight, thank you for joining us. Polaris Sucks, good to see you. And Digger Dog, Lex Diaz, Major Lee, good morning to you. Let's continue on with our roll call. Keyshawn, how's it going? Nina Williams again, because I want to say it twice. And Major Lee with starting off the Super Chats tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of Spaced Out Radio, Major Lee. Thank you very, very much. And continuing on with our roll call, Super Knower. Good to see you. Scanman, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate it. And we are so far caught up. Maybe we just did that really fast. I don't know. Reminder to all of you, the Super Chat is open. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Also, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. Nothing ugly in our store. You're going to actually want to wear our products out in public outside of a garage sale, or painting the walls, or cleaning up the dog poop on the front yard. Yes, we are that nice of clothing that you could get. Dragonfly, Prince Arcane, thank you both for joining us. And there's Christine Lynn, T. Tui. Thank you for coming on in. We're going to get the radio side started here. Hello and welcome to the radio podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're going to look at UFOs, paranormal, cryptids, Skinwalker Ranch. Mark Marinaccio is here with us tonight, and we are in for a great show. And we got all of you. We're doing roll call right now as we say hello to Buckethead, the soothsayer. How you doing, my man? Good to see you. Jennifer Patterson, thank you so much for that amazing super chat. We very much appreciate your love and support nightly, Jen. So thank you very, very much. And Desert Rat, again, coming on in. Yeah, we're in for a good show. There's Bill WD-40. He is officially lubing up the Spreaker chat right now because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want that rigidness. So that's why we get Bill WD-40 in there to make everything just perfect. We got 20 seconds before we're going to launch. We got a great show tonight. We're going to hit a bunch of topics in the first 2 hours. And don't forget, in hour number 3, it is Dave 101 night. We're going to get to that. It is almost that time of the night to say, Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived. Throw those horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show and an impactful show as we look at everything from paranormal television to UFOs, aliens, Skinwalker Ranch. Mark Marinaccio is here to talk about those and his brand new project that he has coming up about experiencers. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing has another great story. Travis William Mustus is filling in for the ailing Robin Haynes on the Cryptid Report. It's Dave 101 night. And to wrap it all up, the strange news of the week. All right, let's kick things off. Mark Marinaccio is a writer, producer, and paranormal podcaster living in beautiful Los Angeles, California with his wife, kids, and a house full of pets. In the last 20 years, he's been creating and producing television shows. He's traveled the world hunting ghosts, tracking UFOs, uncovering ancient mysteries, diving into near-death experiences, cutting through the conspiracy theories, and everything else in between. Growing up, the son of a psychic mother and sci-fi living father helped him to succeed making shows like Ghost Hunters and The Dead Files, which further established him as an expert in the field. When he's not making television shows, writing, or reading science fiction, he's interviewing paranormal celebrities for his show, The Strange Story Podcast, and daydreaming about parallel worlds and alternative realities. Mark Marinaccio, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time, my friend. It's good to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
It is great to see you as well. You've had a lifetime of these. Growing up with sci-fi dad, psychic mom. What was that like?
Making me feel old, a lifetime already. It was great. It was a unique, first of all, anybody that grows up, no matter what their environment is, they most likely don't think that it's unusual at all. It's just, must be how the world is. And so growing up with, my parents being who they are. My father was a Manhattan businessman, still an avid reader, a lover of science fiction, but loved watching science fiction television shows and movies. And so I spent a lot of time doing that with him. But my mother was always very sensitive and spiritual, and still is. And she just knew things and could do things, and sort of had a view of the universe that I took on. I didn't think that was anything out of the ordinary, and of course it definitely was, especially in the 70s and 80s. But it absolutely propelled me into the career and the path that I was on and where I'm at now.
You love putting things on paper, putting things on film, but are you an experiencer as well?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'm 20 plus years of doing this professionally. I often say there's probably not anybody else in the world who has as many hours into this stuff as I do professionally, right? Actually getting paid to do it. And so over the years, I've had my share of experiences that, that after doing these things for so long, you learn to separate the mundane from the exotic. In the first few years alone of doing Ghost Hunters, the OG back in season 3, it took a long time to have an experience, because you learn a lot about what isn't paranormal, right? Which isn't exotic. So even in your own life, you can cross things off, and that it still goes on today with UFOs and other phenomena. But yeah, I've had my share of experiences.
Give us one that really stands out to you, something that freaked you out.
Well, you want to hear a ghost or a UFO or
Tell us
or a
both.
strange
Tell us both.
phenomenon? Where do you want to
Tell
start?
us
You want
all
to start with
three.
the ghost?
Sure, let's do
All
it.
right. So the first really significant um, ghostly sort of experience, I'll call it, was I was producing the very first Ghost Hunters Live. It was on Halloween at the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, where Stephen King got his inspiration for The Shining. And now this is my professional experiences, right? I had some as a kid that didn't understand, but there was the strangest thing, because a lot of this stuff, and this, especially when I was at Skinwalker Ranch, is the phenomena that happens to you, the experiences you have, the experiences I had were not what I expected, right? You have an expectation, and then what makes it crazy is that it's not at all what you expected. And so when I was at Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, I was down in kind of what they were called the tunnels underneath the hotel with Jason and Grant. A lot of what I did on that show and a lot of the shows is that I'll follow the leads around as they're doing the investigation, and discuss it with them, draw out story, and also where allowed, work with them, suggestions, ideas, different things. And so um, we were taking a little break because it was like, other team in another part, they were going to be doing something, so we're taking a little break, and I kind of just sat down for a second, and took my turned off my earbuds and walkies and all that, and um, I was tired, I was exhausted. We were on the road at that point for something like 8 months straight, and then rolled right from one case into Estes Park, jumped right into this live show, which was like, I don't know, 6 hours live, right? So you're prepping all day and doing different things, and then you go into the live. It's just exhausting. You could do it a lot easier when you're younger. And so I sat down just to take a breath, like, and I said, at this point, I hadn't had any experiences on that show, and I was very excited when I joined that show. I jumped at the chance to do it because I was gonna go see a ghost. I was gonna go, have an experience over and over again. And it's just not the reality. Um, Ghosts don't show up on cue. They certainly don't show up just because you showed up. First of all, what is a ghost, right? And so I was like, oh, where's my, I didn't have any experiences. I've been doing this for da, 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 da. Now, the guys were finding evidences and catching a lot of things on video, but we all want that personal, in-person in the moment experience to happen. And so I sat down, just sort of took a break, took a load off, and I think that at this point was kind of like what the heck, when am I ever gonna see something? And it was at that moment that I heard my name called twice, like a loud whisper, but even a little louder, like an echo, like it was coming from down the hall. But it was in my own voice.
Oh my.
And it was the strangest, weirdest thing, I think. And I've seen a lot of stuff from UFOs and, and creatures and mists and, just Skinwalker Ranch alone, was crazy. But that was the weirdest thing that I ever experienced that gave me the chills because that was not something I had ever, mentally planned for. I never, ever, ever thought, oh, how will I feel? Or what will I do if I hear my name called in my own voice? I just don't even, it's such a rare thing. It wasn't even something we explored on the show. It's just not something that you happens. Um, so that was probably the strangest thing and the freakiest thing because again, I'm going to these places ready for an experience. So I'm not scared. I mean, I've been scared, but I'm not, I generally don't get scared. I get excited and make sure the cameras are covering whatever's going on. But that was like my first professional experience that really sort of shifted. And then it was like a domino effect from there. It was like a snowball. We went to I did a show called Ghost Hunters International, and we went to England. And
Love
this
that show.
yeah, thank you. It was again the first season, and it was a place. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the most haunted town in the UK. All right, little village, and we went into this bar and like pub where the story was this, way back when this guy Will, who was the town, bailiff, would sit people down in a chair, stand over them, real, sort of overbearing figure, intimidating, and put his hands on their shoulders and say, you're going to make your payments, right? The tax collector. Oh yeah, yeah. And so we were looking for Will the bailiff, and so we had been there for hours, 5, 6 hours at this point, and it was time for our meal break. And so we all sort of, you leave cameras running and things, but we all go into a different space and we're eating. And I had finished up, and I walked back into the bar area and went to where the cameras were set up and looked back towards like the taps and like the little bar, set
Mhm.
up. And I saw what can only be described as like an electric mist, like almost like fog, electrified blue fog, but very thin, right? Not thick at all. But I could see it moving in, felt like a deliberate movement. And it came in sort of past the bar, and I got chills, I got goosebumps, my stomach felt nauseous, my eyes started watering, and I said, "Guys, get in here, something's going on." And they rushed in and, got the equipment up and running and started using like an EMF meter to ask questions. Is anybody here with us? And things go beep 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 beep. And they go through the routine and then start getting to like the yes or no questions. And I kid you not, it was about an hour long yes and no session with what was telling us he was Will the bailiff. And that was interesting and exciting because I felt something and saw something before the investigation part took over. And so that was one of the coolest things. One of the so if the Stanley Hotel was the creepiest, and the pub in England was maybe one of the coolest, one of the scariest things was I was at this guy David Oman's house in the Hollywood Hills with Ghost Hunters, and he lived in a house that was built on the area, what used to be the driveway where Jay Sebring was murdered by Manson family. And a very well-known spot, a lot going on there, a lot of investigations. Barry Taft had been there. And so we were downstairs in like it's like a multi-level house on a hill, right? So we're downstairs in kind of like a family room type area. and I think it was Chris Fleming was with us, and he was showing the guys this K2 meter and having like a question and answer session. And so I went with our sound guy. I said, let's get out of the room, give them more space. And we stepped into one of the bedrooms, as we often do, just kind of get out of the way. So we're not like making noise, making sudden movements, I can still hear and communicate with the guys if need be. But this way, just there's no contamination that could be us, right? Especially when they're getting, responses and evidence. We don't want to, we want to make sure it's clean. So we went into there, and again, I'm just kind of exhausted. And he's standing up against the wall, kind of working the dials on his mixing board with his headphones on. And I sit down on the bed directly opposite him. And so he's looking over at me, and I sit down on the bed. And I just kind of like fall backwards for a second, just put my arms out, just like, and at that moment, the bed started shaking violently, like
Oh my.
violently. And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're having an earthquake in California. I live here. And so I sit up real fast. I'm like, oh my God, did you feel that? And he looks at me like white as a ghost. And he's like, no, but I saw it. And so just the bed was moving and nothing else in the house. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then the next day, I was conducting an interview with one of David's friends, and she was telling the story about how sometimes she'll spend the night, if they've been out late and doesn't want to drive home. And, she'll sleep in the extra bedroom. And she's just telling the story, and I'm just listening to it, going through the motions. And she's like, yeah. And then, a couple of times, I'd feel something sit down next to me on the bed, and then, almost like it pinned me down and I couldn't move. And I'm like, well, which room is this? And she tells me it's the room that I was just in the night before, where I had that experience on that same bed. So that was really sort of, freaky, right? And I mean, I was at Penhurst Asylum. I did World's Biggest Ghost Hunt, and we were in a room, and we heard what sounded like, you know, um, 5 refrigerators dropping at once onto the floor 3 feet behind us, and there's nothing anywhere to be found. And it was like, I mean, like a sonic boom loud, right? And that made me jump. But then there's nothing else beyond that for me, right? Because there's nothing else you could sort of follow up on. But when I have these experiences at these locations where they continue to lead to something, um, that's what gets me excited. We did a Ghost Hunters International. We also did a castle in Slovakia, and in Slovakia, the the story was that the it was in a king. I forget what he was. The man of the lord or whatever, was like beating a servant, and his wife, put her hand up to stop his hand from coming down, and he pulled out his sword and chopped off his wife's hand, or
Oh,
chopped off her arm, and she eventually died from that wound. And the story was the ghost of the white lady, because she wore a white dress, and it was believed to be this woman who had died there, the wife. And so, um, again, after a meal break, we go back into the room, into the castle. And one of my parts of my jobs is to sort of prompt how we kick things off. And so I'm like, okay, guys, hey, this is the room where the white lady's been seen. Let's make sure we mention that or whatever. Um, and so Rob Demarest has the thermal camera in his hand, and he's kind of joking around with Andy, and he's like, okay, this is the room with the white lady. Suddenly, I start to water. My stomach feels nauseous. You know, goosebumps on my arm. I'm standing behind our camera operator, and we're shooting in night vision, so it's just black and white. But his camera monitor starts going just red, blood red, and then Rob sort of casually pulls up the thermal camera. And now this is all happening in like a second, right? This isn't something that's going on. And on the monitor, the thermal, you see what looked like footprints walking up the wall of the castle. Like as soon as that all happened, and I was like, "That's bananas! Like that's not something you would even think that's what you're gonna see." There's no rhyme or reason to that. How does that even connect? Um, but that's what it's all about in these situations, is the connections, right? It's not so much even about the singular experience, but it's about what does that experience, that information, that data, evidence, how does it relate to everything that's come before it? And what can you do with it to move forward? And when you make those connections, that's when it gets really exciting, because that's when you start to get to the probabilities of things being real, because the the odds of them not of all these things not being related are a little bit, unreasonable. Coincidences, they're not they don't happen as much as we like to think. That in multiple ways with multiple points. So those things sort of get me really excited.
You've been to Skinwalker Ranch many a time now due to
Well,
filming.
I went there. I produced season 3, so I was out there for 4 months.
Okay, I have to ask you because for a lot of us, as we got about 4 minutes to go before we go to break at the bottom of the hour mark, a lot of us see it on TV. We hear Brandon Fugel and Travis Taylor talk. It's one of those mystique places where I think for any adventurer into this field, we want to go to.
Oh yeah,
It's like Disneyland for
that's
us.
the spot. Yep.
What was it like feeling that mystique the first time you walked onto Skinwalker Ranch?
I tell you, I recorded video of myself the first time I pulled through the gate because I had been trying to get on that ranch for 15 years up to that point. Ever since Knapp and Colin Kelleher's book came out, of the Skinwalker, I was just engrossed in the story and the history and the lore, enthralled with it, and I wanted so badly to get on it. And I became a storyteller of the unexplained because of the access I get to these places, right? I mean, I love telling the stories, but this is how you're going to get access for a meaningful amount of time, alone, unrestricted. And so when I got the opportunity and was asked to go produce it, I said, yeah, absolutely. And so I recorded myself going through the gate the first time because I was like this is, take a moment, step away from the job for a moment, because we had done prep before that. I've been talking about it on the phone, but now like this is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And if not for the career I had built up to that point, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. And so, and I was pitching every show imaginable that was Walker Ranch adjacent. Like I can get access to the mesa on top or the property next door. And at the time, people just didn't even understand what the ranch was, or that, you don't have to be on it necessarily, although that's a big ticket. But it was under Bigelow and then government control, and then Brandon bought it. He was super tight about it. Um, so once I went through those gates, I took a moment for myself, and I was like, this is, one of the things that I had worked towards for so long, and not even knowingly, right? I mean, I built a career out of doing what I loved, and exploring what I love to explore. And it was because of my passion for that I kept doing it. I became sought out. That put me in the position to be the guy they came to make to help make the show. Um, and so it was not the way I expected to get there, right? I mean, in a way, but it was incredible just to actually have that internal moment, an introspective moment of realization. But I'll tell you this: the most surprising part about going to that ranch was once I got out of my car and I walked out, the helipad area and all that. It was one of the most peaceful and calm and serene places I'd ever been to in my life, and that was unexpected. You expect, if not for any other reason than the psychological effect of just knowing the stories and being pumped to go there. There was this calmness that was almost artificial. It was so calm and so strange, and that was like a aha, this is part of it somehow. Don't know what how yet, but this is part of it. And so that was my first experience going onto the ranch. That's
But
how I felt about it.
30 seconds left. From what I have heard for people who go onto the ranch, okay, the phenomena there always gives you a sense of peace to make you calm and relax before it fires up on your face.
I would say that's definitely an accurate assessment of the feeling you get there. Because, like I was saying before, even though we could be successful at triggering phenomena, you never knew where it would happen or what it would be. And it was things that you did not, not only did you not expect, but you didn't want. And so, it sort of like puts you in your place for a minute, right? Where again, but I can go on. I have plenty of stories about that, if
We'll
anybody
get
wants to
into
stick
that
around.
next. Mark Marinaccio here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. We're in for a fun time already. Story time has been great on this show. We're going to continue with that. Spaced Out Radio continues with Mark Marinaccio. When we return, more Skinwalker Ranch stories. And we'll get into what he's working on in hour number 2. Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back. All right, we're clear, dude. We're
Yeah,
clear.
everyone can still see me on Facebook. I wonder how I pause the live feed on Facebook. There's got to be a way, right?
I don't know. I don't think you can because you're feeding off of my feed.
No, there's got to be a way. I cannot imagine there wouldn't be a way on Facebook to pause it. Maybe I do it on my my StreamYard. It's a delay anyway, which is okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see here. You are live. Huh. I think I'm going to do a quick Google.
I'm looking at your Facebook page right now. I don't even see it.
It's on my Strange Story page.
Oh, Strange Story. Okay. There you go. Right there. Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Let's see.
Make sure we go and give this page a like.
Thank you.
No problem. Oh, you got a lot of shows you've been on lately.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
If I hit this, when you're live streaming, you save the video while streaming. You can pause the recording.
I don't know.
Oh, that's just a recording. Yeah, you can't do it. That seems strange. I guess I could turn my mic off. I can pause my video and my mic, right?
Or we can just chat and have some fun.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind. I'll just chat. Is it because if I pause it, what if I can't get it back?
Well, let me say hello to some people who just came in. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Puck Elf. Bobbert.
Wait, there's a guy in the comments, Mark's Shed Talk. I'm Mark and I'm in my shed. This guy, is he my long lost brother?
He's from Australia. So the beautiful part about Mark over in Australia is he predicts the future because it's already tomorrow there. So
he was going to be Mark's Shed. Mark's Shed.
This is why Mark says, yes, Dave. Hello, Dave. Yes, you are alive tomorrow. Because I always ask him, am I alive tomorrow? So that way I know I can enough pay, right?
Yeah, I forget where I went, where I traveled back so long that I went back in time. And I was like, I'm from the future.
Nice. Nice.
It was from maybe it was Asia, somewhere in Asia or something. I don't know. Pretty hilarious.
Bob Sitchy. It's been a while since we had you here, Bob Sitchy. Good to see you back. Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube right there. And I think we're caught up here. I'm just going to quickly say to my audience here, hi, Savage Grammy. How are you? Yes, I am feeling better today. Thank you. I apologize for not feeling the best yesterday. I'm in a total body change right now, Mark, where I'm trying to get back into shape and get a little bit healthier. I found out like I've got really bad sleep apnea, and
you have a CPAP?
Now I do.
Yeah. I don't know about Canada, but out here, if you have a CPAP, then you get a free Tesla Powerwall, a backup generator for your home, since it's a medically necessary device.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I just lost 25 pounds, so I get you.
Well, I'm pretty proud. I'm already down about 2 inches on my stomach in the last 3 weeks.
Well, the issue with that, which I'm going through now, is I don't have any pants that fit me, and everything's all literally none of my jeans fit me, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't want to go buy all these jeans again.
I know, but you know what? It happens when you're beautiful.
There's worse things to have happen to you in life.
Exactly. So I quit caffeine this week, and I think that's what triggered my my heart racing incident last
Mm,
night.
mhm.
And so, like, today's day 2 without sugar, and I'm still feeling the effects, but it's not as bad. And my audience is a very caring audience that always wants to see what's best for me. So
That's
it's
great.
they're beautiful people. So I just wanted to kind of give them an update on that. Who else has jumped in here? Sweet Tony D. How are you? T-Bone, my man. How you doing? Yeah. So, um, yeah, just some system shock is what I'm going through right now. Thank you tonight to Major Lee, Jennifer, and W. Decker for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support. Don't forget to shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Hi, aloha, Dave. We do not have ugly swag, people. Do not have ugly swag. Here we go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Here we go with the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with director, producer Mark Marinaccio as we talk about his time on Skinwalker Ranch. Mark, thank you so much for being here. Very much appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Dave. It's great to be here.
All right, my man. Skinwalker Ranch. First time you step on it, you kind of get that sense of a feeling like, hey, this place isn't so bad. Nice
Uh,
and calm.
yeah, it
Okay.
was. Well, it's more like confusion, right? Why is it so calm here? Why is this so nice? Wow, like you almost want to whisper. What's going on? Where's the aliens?
How long did it take before things started happening there?
Um, I mean, it's. So I was there. We would be on the ranch, generally speaking, Monday through Friday. Um, Supposed to be 12 weeks and went a little longer than that, but up becoming, 4 months. And every week something happened. If we had, you know, a bulk of a week without anything happening, it was odd. It was odd. So I would think that I just don't recall how long it was, how much time I was there before we started filming. Because it's as soon as we started filming and getting everybody focused on stuff that things started happening. I think that in that episode, in that first season 3 kickoff meeting, in that episode, we were getting that 1.65 gigahertz weird frequency. We had a planes doing surveillance overhead, right off the bat, which is again, I was cool, but the the think it was maybe only week 2. We had the guys out from UAPX who were a couple of guys who were on board the Nimitz during the Tic Tac encounter, and we we saw did this thing where fired a rocket into an area of the triangle to try to stimulate some activity, trigger something, and you know a UAP popped into the sky in the same place that it was seen quite often. And I saw it and it was like, oh my God. And like, of course, right away, you want to make sure it's not a star, satellite, plane, space station, whatever. And of course, Eric does all that. And he's got all the devices and it's nothing. And you're like, oh my God, is it going to do so? Waiting for it to do something. And then it disappears. And that was like that was not only the first real experience on the ranch, it was a real UFO, right? A real UAP, like verified, documented. And so that was, a heck of a way to kick off, a summer on the ranch. Like I didn't have to wait 3 months for one. It was week 1 or week 2. So, like I said, right away. I mean, and that's not to take into account all of the electronics things that happen constantly. It's like do not ever go on Skinwalker Ranch expecting anything you have electronic to work properly. It just won't. And it was always funny when the rest of the guys that had done 2 seasons were used to this, but you get these guys coming out with, the best equipment in the world for whatever the experiment is, and like, oh yeah, you can't even find this on, you can't even buy this if you wanted to. I only have this because I got it from a military contact. It's an R&D. This thing doesn't quit out no matter what. And 5 minutes later, they're saying, I don't have any idea what happened. Got no reason, no explanation for what happened, and it just doesn't work. And so your phones are always trying to unlock themselves, and numbers going or skitzing out. You get other people's calls, like we'd be in the trailer on a call. That's where our production is, in the trailer. Be on a call, and then somebody else would make a call to somewhere else, but instead of it going to wherever they were calling, it would just open up the line to our call. We couldn't hear them, but they could just play on speakerphone, like our call is now on their phone. So that's just sort of part and parcel for the radio electromagnetic, frequency strangeness that takes place there. Um, Not being able to understand what technology or signal frequency equipment technology, like I said, causes that, even if it's intentional or not. I mean, there was a very big, very serious thought about surveillance taking place because, this 1.65 gigahertz signal would spike on the spectrum analyzer. And then, you would hear people's microphones, like the cast microphone, just out in the air, being broadcast, like just out in the air. And then they'd turn their mics off and you'd still hear them. Weird stuff. So that was every day. I mean, there was like every day. The redundancies for filming that show were incredible because, if you don't capture it, then everyone misses out. So, like Eric he blankets that ranch with cameras, and you go to the camera that should have caught the object, and suddenly out of nowhere that camera decided to just point down at the moment. But he's got another camera over here, so that one caught it, and that's just the way it is there. So, like I said, right away within the first few days, week of being there.
What did you experience there? I mean, we all hear about the UFOs. We all hear about the cattle mutilations that are happening there, the dogmen that have been seen there, the ghosts. What came first for you?
That UFO, that was the first thing that I saw there, was the UFO on the day that the UAPX guys were there. That was the absolute first thing. And that's exciting for me because I've almost kind of seen everything else. And I've seen things that maybe are UFOs. I've seen really strange objects come down and do things. But, when you're at the ranch, the amount of equipment to immediately authenticate or validate a sighting or an experience, provides like real-time feedback that yes, what you are seeing is real. So it's unlike seeing a UFO anywhere else because, when you see something, sometimes, you'll afterwards, I know for me, my head will start going, well, wait a minute, was it real? I mean, what do I have to hold on to now after the fact, that says it was or wasn't, I don't know. How do I know it wasn't? I'm just not used to seeing whatever the thing was that was there, whether it was some, non-exotic aerial phenomena. But that UFO is the very first thing, and we saw a lot of them. And we had a group of astronomers come out to do an experiment over the triangle, and their telescopes just would not look through the anomaly above the triangle. They just punch in the keypad to the constellation that's right over there. It would start to slew towards it, and then turn back down, point down, and then delete that constellation from its internal database. That make no sense. We would, and then on that night in particular, we were just trying to shoot a rocket up into the anomaly below triangle, so that the two things: the telescopes were supposed to look through the anomaly because there's something there that we couldn't see that was causing a distortion of space time, right? A warping, right? Like you kind of hold a
Yeah.
glass of water up and look through it, and it kind of bends images. Um, so we just wanted to first look at it and look at the stars on the other side of it to see if they were kind of curving at all or doing anything strange that would be because you're looking through, a glass or something. But we couldn't even get the telescopes pointed at it, and so we shined a laser up to try to get the telescope to just manually focus on it, and the laser split and bent, and stopped like it was hitting something. And then, so we fired a rocket into it because that's kind of what you do on the ranch, right?
When in doubt, fire a rocket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I went onto that season, like, seeing how much success the Rockets had, and they were like, this seems to work, so let's keep doing it. And so then, we did that, and then in the southern sky, out of nowhere, there's just a very slow moving, very low UFO across the sky. And when they move very linearly, the first thing you think is it's a satellite. And luckily, we've got Dr. Travis Taylor there, who's got his own satellites in space, who can tell us if it is or it isn't. And he'll, in that instance, he was like, well, it's too low to be a satellite because they have to move very, very fast the lower in orbit they are. Otherwise, they get pulled in and burn and get sucked into the atmosphere. The degradation, because everything's in space and orbit is actually just falling. It's falling toward, that's what keeping it in orbit, it's just falling towards Earth constantly. But the speed keeps it from ever, coming through. And this thing was moving too slow. It would have been boop and went right in. And then it had a black hole in the center of it. And then maybe even looked like it was two pieces. And then when it got toward the edge of, your viewing frame, it made like a turn and disappeared. Um, that kind of stuff is when you've got like all the big brains there, this is what they do in real life, and they know it's not something that can be explained. That's exciting, and that was one of the other really big sort of UFO experiences. But you know, outside of that, there was dangerous things that happened that were really scary.
Like
Um,
one.
well, one of the things we did in that season, we leaned into the Bigelow era days with NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Scientists. We brought back people that hadn't been on the ranch since the NID days, like Colonel John Alexander, and then some people like Chris Bartell from who was there during the Bass and OSAP, DIA days as a guard. And we said, look, with Colonel Alexander, it was, look, we always heard rumors of these Bigelow caves. They found caves. We can't find any substantial caves, and Chris Bartel was like, yeah, I found caves with giant wolf traps in them. And he kind of showed us where they were. And then we went, John Alexander said, yeah, you know, I don't know, but, we said, well, what were some things that you guys did to successfully stimulate phenomena? And there's a very famous story about the tunnel with the creature, the night vision. And the guys had identified through like some like satellite, photogrammetry data, what looked like blade tracks from a bulldozer in a field. And Alexander, sort of went out there and told us, yeah, this is where we dug. So we wanted to recreate that experience. And we went out there. And by the way, I'm just gonna let you know this is a long story because it's like so many things that get to the dangerous part. And like the warning signs kept happening, but we didn't we didn't we weren't gonna stop, because it's our job, but also, you're so sort of giddy with excitement that you sometimes forget that this has like actual real physical consequences on people. And so, we went, got the biggest bulldozer ever brought on the ranch, and Thomas was running it, and he does like one pass with it, clears one little section and then rolls back, and then the thing dies. And the guys who, that the owners of it and the people who worked on it came out. I mean, there's no reason. Nobody could figure out why this thing stopped working. Nothing would get it back. And there were brand new batteries, fully charged in there. They tested the batteries. The batteries had juice. There's no reason why this thing just suddenly won't work anymore. And it's also by, I think, the famous "don't dig here" spot where everyone who's owned the property has told the next owner, "You don't dig here." So of course we dug there. And Eric went back to the command center to get a piece of equipment to see if there was a lack of electricity running from the battery to like the starter and whatnot. And while I was in the command center, one of the big monitors is one of the a graph and chart monitoring radiation in different spots along the ranch. And right where we were was a huge radiation spike at very dangerous levels. And he radioed and said, "Get out of there, get out of there." We all had to rush out of there immediately. And so, of course, we were like, "Well, we got to go back." And so that night, said, "Okay, the guys had the idea. Let's set up from a distance, safe distance from the bulldozer, and see if we can observe anything, going on that might have triggered everything that happened today." And so we set up. As soon as we get down there, and I saw it, there's like this yellow light in the woods, right at the edge of the field, at the beginning of the woods. That was kind of like, it was not a flashlight. And it was like, if it was a flashlight, it was someone who was, you know, 20 feet tall holding it straight. And the light didn't spread. It just was like a ball of yellow light that kind of moved a little bit like this and then disappeared. And I think it was Caleb and Thomas that went looking for it, and there was nothing there. And so we're like, that's wild. So we set up shop, the guys set up everything and said, well, let's fire a rocket into the air right over the bulldozer where, it conked out because rockets seem to do something. So they shot a rocket straight up. And almost immediately, there was on the spectrum analyzer, a signal coming through at the 1.65 gigahertz frequency, which is that mysterious frequency that seems to accompany a lot of the activity at the ranch. And they had a Yagi, an antenna, pointed where the signal was coming in. And it was pointed directly into the space where the rocket went up, right? Like pinpoint. If we move the antenna just a slightly in any direction, a millimeter, the signal will be gone, right? It was so specifically pointed at the antenna. And it lasted for like an hour. And as Travis explains, can't be a satellite. That would have been gone within seconds, right? Can't be a star because we've rotated away from it, Um, it's got to be something in geosynchronous orbit with our specific position on the ranch. And people be like, well, they do, topographical surveys and da 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 da. It's like, why Skinwalker Ranch? This is private property. Brandon's not doing it. There's no reason for it. And that's not the first time. There have been, multiple, when everyone's outside the command center, if somebody goes in, they see on the ADSB a plane doing a push broom pattern over the ranch, surveying something. And then when we get in there and say, there's just something up there, it takes off. Find out that it's a National Science Foundation chartered plane, by like Raytheon or something, right? I mean, it makes no sense. And that's happened multiple times. And so anyway, the signal wouldn't go anywhere. And so Travis turned on the sound, which is an interpretation of the pattern, right? And recognized it right away as what sounds like a communication signal from that you could get from a satellite or something. That's what it sounds like. And there were other strange sounds that have been collected around the ranch. And so the next day, I think it was Tom and Candace or Jim Morse or somebody had gotten a call from this station manager at a local FM and AM radio station who said, I got this, weird interference that was coming through my system. And, I know you guys are doing all these experiments and research there. I don't know if it's related or anything. Can you, check it out? And if you don't, anything as you do, you cannot receive signals from an FM AM broadcast antenna. It's very highly regulated, what your pattern is, what your signal is. They don't receive, but something came through the antenna and broadcast on her airwaves in a way that was a strange sound and shut down her whole online feed. And so they went there. They said, if we play a sound for you, would you recognize it as the same one? If it was, and so, yeah. And so they played the sound from the event we had, and she's like, that's the same sound that I heard. And so they asked her, would you broadcast it for us? And so she spent, I think, 2 minutes and broadcast that signal on both the FM and AM station. And they watched the spectrum analyzer and watched her signal jump in ways that it's literally not allowed to do by FCC regulations. And so that was strange. And then the next morning, there was a kid at the hotel, who was, people, the guys on the ranch were familiar with him and whatnot, and he had a video where it was him and his neighbors out like in front of their houses or behind their houses, all looking up and recording like these series of red lights appearing and disappearing in the sky out of nowhere. And it happened within just a few hours of the radio broadcast in town. And so it was like, oh my God, this is bananas. So going back to the purpose of this, with the guys from the Bigelow era was these caves, right? And so we had Chris Bartell, who pointed a spot in the caves. And then there were a few experiments with GPS units that were doing wacky things. You fly into the triangle, then suddenly the GPS unit shows up 65 miles underground. You do it, you go up there and drop bottles through it, and then those GPS units wind up, showing up that they were inside the mesa. And so, we had where Chris Bartell was, where this plane's GPS were, where Eric's GPS were, they all were hitting the mesa at the same exact spot. We like literally found X marks the spot, right? I mean, why is everything pointing to this location? And so they brought a professional blaster out because the area where it was looked like a rock slide. And he said, this was blasted, but there's nothing of value here. So to me, it looks like it was blasted to cover something or cover something up. And he wasn't speaking in a conspiratorial nature. He was speaking as a professional blaster. Why would you blast somewhere if not for getting something out? As you would cover something, and that's what it looks like there. And so then the guys started dropping smoke bombs into the little holes we could find, and the smoke was getting sucked back in, like it wasn't coming out. So it's like, okay, how many more X's do you need on the spot to say this is something? And so they initiated a lateral drilling experiment to drill into that part of the mesa, going underground and then up into it. The only way. And this drill went in, and again, this is Utah. This is mining country. Like these guys aren't like hobbyists that come out. These are the guys that have, working for the $1 trillion companies mining. So they've got the gear, you know? And so they're drilling in, and it hits the drill bits on the other side of the canal when it gets into the mesa, hits something, and the drill bit couldn't penetrate it. Now, up to this point, it's going a couple hundred feet, right? There's no spoils. And if you know anything about that, when you're drilling into a hole, you're pumping water, and the water should be coming back out, and it comes out into basically a bin where you can sift through and see what it is. There's nothing coming out. And so they're like, well, the only reason nothing's coming out is because it's hollow in there and it's going somewhere else. And so then it hits this object, it hits something hard, and the drill bit cannot penetrate it. But when it hits it, two things happen. It started producing spoils, and they were these flakes, really thin flakes of metallic, material that were later analyzed and had these, manufactured compositions. These were not naturally occurring things, that were not known compositions. And in fact, one of the elements in the makeup was very rare on Earth, more often found in space, but it wasn't meteorite because it didn't have the other elements that you would have in it, right? So anyway, hits this object, and so instead of going through it, it starts to go down and around. And the other thing that happened when it hit it was on Eric's spectrum analyzer, he got a peak at the 1.65 gigahertz frequency. And now at the same time, Dragon and Tom Lewis were at Homestead 2, I believe, because part of the approach there is like, if something's going to happen, you don't know where, let's cover as many bases as we can. And that's a hotbed of activity. So go over there, poke around, and see if there's, if anything happens while they're drilling. Totally on just like hey, here's a random idea that they were sent over there. And so when the bit hit that object and a signal peaked at the 1.65 gigahertz, it then transmitted a sound through our walkie-talkies. And that's not a transmitter, it's a receiver, right? The spectrum analyzer. And it transmitted this high-pitched, like squeal sound over the walkie-talkies. And now we're Dragon and Tom Lewis where they had walkie-talkies. And once that sound came out the walkie-talkie, Tom Lewis dropped to his knees, grabbed his chest, put his arm down, and his arm went numb. And Dragon recognized it immediately as he's having a heart issue.
Oh
And
my.
so, yeah, so got like, radioed, got in his truck and literally stormed off of the ranch with Tom Lewis and took him to the ER where they put him on, a heart monitor, EKG, and all that. The doctor said, Your heart is out of sync, out of rhythm.
Let's
And
hold on right there. Let's hold on right there.
okay,
Mark Marinaccio filling in stories from Skinwalker Ranch. Yeah, they are real, people, despite what the critics may say. We're going to continue with an exciting hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. Stay tuned, everybody.
goes by fast, right? When I
Oh,
just
yeah,
talk and I talk and I talk,
dude, I'm
So
just listening. I'm
that
listening.
happens.
I am enjoying every second of it. I really am. We got about 6 minutes here. I'm going
Okay.
to put you in the green room if you want to grab a bathroom break or a drink or something, and I will be right back. Okay.
Sorry.
Be right back, people. All right, I am back. Good to have you all here. Good morning, Peter Benton in the UK. Thank you for joining us. We'll bring Mark back here. If you haven't already, follow Mark on Strange Story Socials at Strange Story CO. I want to make sure we get that out there.
Thank you.
And
oh yeah, we'll also give everybody a link to if they want to try to
sure,
appear on the show that I'm doing, but we'll get to that, right?
we're gonna get
we
to
can
that.
tease it a little bit.
As soon as we're done Skinwalker Ranch, that's what I want to get into.
Oh, you don't want to hear about this first?
Oh, we can hear about that. I did not know about this.
Yeah, I haven't really talked about it that much.
What kind of metallic debris may that be?
We'll see what the official analysis. You would think these look like kind of tire treads, don't you? But they're not. They're something else entirely.
Excellent. Thank you for the surprise. Hey, badass Billy Gunn, how you doing? All right. And let's see who else we got here. We're all caught up here. And thank you to our super chatters, Polaris, W. Decker, Jennifer, and Major Lee. Don't forget, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. No ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So go shopping today. You'll enjoy it. And here we go, everybody. 3 seconds. Stay tuned.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Let's get going with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight as we talk Skinwalker Ranch with Mark Marinaccio. We will get to Mark momentarily. But first, we want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Joko Sirius. Joko Sirius is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Mark Marinaccio, producer, director. He's worked on television shows from Ghost Hunters to Skinwalker Ranch, and we're talking about the ranch right now. Mark, thank you so much for being here. Very much appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's fun.
I'm having a blast too. All right. So you were talking about the guy who may have had a heart attack.
Tom Lewis. Yeah. Great guy who when that sound came over the walkie from the 1.65 gigahertz signal, dropped to his knees. His arm went numb. He was like fainting and, got rushed to the ER immediately where they put him on a heart monitor. And the doctor said to him something that would appear like an electrical charge put your heart out of rhythm. And he had to wear a heart monitor for a while. I mean, let's talk about scary. The guy literally was doing nothing but standing on the ranch when his heart got affected. And that's the thing that makes you pause about the ranch, because we're all excited. Whoa, we're hitting something. There's an object in there. Oh my God. And then here's somebody who drops to his knees with a serious heart, emergency. That's the ranch. That's the thing that is like, it's all fun and games till someone loses an eye, right? And Brandon takes that very, very seriously. And so when you see, we don't want to dig, and even this first season when Dragon was all about not digging, it's because people actually do get hurt, and it's not in the ways you think. And everyone's like, oh, why that's stupid. Why don't you just dig? I mean, these people are close to Brandon. This is his family. And if you've asked them to come out there and do something for you, even though they know the risks, you don't want to put them in danger for your own enjoyment or exploration. So it's a tough thing. But that was scary. That was legitimately scary. Um, what does that? What causes that? He wasn't engaging anything. Could that to happen to anybody? Thomas Winterton, who had the thing on his head, like the protruding the lump or protrusion on the back of his head inside, from his brain and the inside of his skull, um, which mimics official DIA reports on the effects on human biological tissue from exposure to UAP. This is dangerous stuff, right? It's odd, but it's uncommon in the world, but it's not uncommon for exposure to sort of UAP or unknown phenomenon. This happens. It's not scary because you don't want that. Like, you certainly don't want it to happen to you, and you don't think you don't think it'll happen to you, because why would it? That makes no sense. But then it does, and so that was the scariest. And now out of that came, when that drill was going, and then it went down, it went in and down and up and around, and created a image of a 400-foot long dome shaped object in that mesa, which has always been the big rumor, the big mystery, the big treasure map X, that everyone's always like, there's something in that mesa, and it's somehow connected to the phenomenon here. Just, it, you feel it. And so, I think that was a bit scary to realize that as actually possibly true.
I want to ask you, just a little bit off topic, but as someone who has experienced a lot of phenomena at Skinwalker in your season there, 4 months there, what do you think about all the online criticism saying it's fake? There's nothing going on there. You know, obviously these are people who haven't been there. One person who has is Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post. He has been highly critical of Brandon Fugel and the operation there. I mean, is it warranted? Is it something that people just don't understand because it's not an open place to the public?
Maybe it's ridiculous. I mean, and I don't want to, not faulting anyone's opinions, or diminishing anybody's value of their own opinions there, but it's as someone who's been there and actually making the show, it's ridiculous to me to hear that it's fake or not real or whatever it is. But it's I think most of the time the criticism comes from people who just don't have enough hours into the subject matter to understand what phenomena is, and when and how it happens, and how it is valuable because of the way in which it relates to other phenomena or history, lore, whatever, and experiences. So I don't know. The New York Times guy, what was his gripe? Because he went out there and did like some kind of like slam piece or something, right? On Brandon. I don't really remember what the
Yeah, he
deal was.
was questioning everything that kind of happened there and believes that it's made up for television and all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff.
I mean, first of all, it's History Channel. You're not allowed to make things up. Like, they have these networks, these cable networks, for the most part, have a legal obligation in their carrier agreements to be factual. That's one. And then History Channel being what it is, this is like, they take it very seriously. They are the ones who are literally like, look, the show is just documenting what you guys are doing out there. If nothing happens, nothing happens. And you'll see that in a lot of history shows like Oak Island, or you'll see it in even season one of Skinwalker. Like, nothing really happens a lot of the time. Um, that's the reality of it. But because Skinwalker Ranch is so active and so heavily investigated, you're going to have a higher odds of catching phenomena than anywhere else, because there's no other place where there's 24/7, 365 days a year scientific investigation going on. It's just, there isn't. So certainly not fake, as the person who was out there making the season. It's absolutely not made up. Um, there's nothing on the show that's not what's really happening. So you know, I think people also sometimes they'll be like, well, the drone went up and it didn't work, but you have a shot from your drone looking down, and how come that didn't work? It's like, well, you know what? Our drone didn't work that day, but you did a pickup where another day you said, hey, walk out to the field so we can get a shot of you from the sky. And it's used, and that's B-roll. Like that's that,
Yeah.
you know? So, it's just, you can't get bothered by it when you work in a field that is understood by so few and criticized by so many. You can't get bothered by it. I think the biggest advancement in this world is the federal acknowledgement. You really can't go out there now and say UFOs aren't real or UAP isn't real, because there's less evidence to say they're not real than there is that says there is, right? I mean, it's just, it's a ridiculous thing to say there is no such thing as aerial phenomena when it's literally, over decades documented at the highest levels of military and government around the world. Doesn't mean little green men are flying ships around, but that's still to the point of, like, you don't know what they are, and it's a real thing. I mean, phenomena other types of phenomena at the ranch. I mean, what are you gonna do? You're gonna go tell the doctor at the emergency room that Tom Lewis is lying, and he somehow is tricking you and your equipment into thinking his heart's having a rhythmic misstep or AFib. Like, how do you fake that? How is that faked? It's ridiculous.
Uh, and I appreciate you for saying that. So thank you very much. Let's get back to the ranch here for a moment, because there's a lot of strange happenings there. Did you ever see any of the cryptids or any of the cattle mutilations that had happened there?
Um, no cryptids. There's signs of animals that don't make sense, and I have to be careful because I'm not sure what made the show or not, because you can't put it all into the season, and if it hasn't, sometimes it sits around and becomes like a what you didn't see or whatever. So I can't talk about things that didn't go on air. Um, but I we never saw a creature of any kind, but plenty of indications of them.
Wow. Wow, that's just absolutely weird. What do you think is actually going on there? What's your gut
That's the
feeling?
$1 million question, right? It's, you have to sometimes add a little gut to it, right? Because the science tells you something is going on there, but it doesn't tell you what or why. Um, and so it's tough. I thought a lot about things about the ranch before I went there, but it doesn't make sense. And so one thing that I really learned from Eric and Travis, um, was tempering speculation. Because, not that I love the ideas of what if, what could it be? It's fun to have the sci-fi mindset of, like, oh, it could be a spaceship under there, a secret base, it could be interdimensional beings and portals. Um, but I don't know, because I've always believed that if you accept one, seemingly impossibility as possible, then you've got to accept a lot of them or all of them, right? Because you don't have any evidence to say it's true. If you're going to go as far as to say it can be this one thing, well, then how could you discount other things? I also truly believe that even if I knew what was going on there, I wouldn't be able to understand it. I don't believe that I or a lot of people have the capacity to understand, the physics, the science of what is taking place, which is the first step. Because physics is our way to define and understand our observable universe. But we know there's something that exists outside of our observable universe, and we don't know if we're using a hammer when we need a screwdriver to figure out what it is. And so I do think, though, that there is a lot of correlation to the types of UAP that are seen there, the spherical orb-shaped phenomena that appear as if triggered, as if they're sort of inspecting what's going on, um, because they were alerted to something possible danger, right? It's like the missile silo, UAP, or even Foo Fighters, or these other reports of where they seem to come out and check out the level of danger or threat that's happening. And I think at Skinwalker Ranch, it's very possible that there's some, interdimensional or AI that's ancient that maybe is left over, and whoever was there, or whatever it answers to, who or what, has a form of communication that is similar to its structure, that is similar to our brain chemistry enough that it potentially recognizes us as master for the sake of giving a command. But because we're not the architects or the master, it gets confused by what it thinks our commands are. So, and the way that I say that is that, you know, your best intentions go wrong on Skinwalker Ranch. The more planning and time and focus and energy and people you have focused on a task, the less likely it is to succeed. And from the rockets that blew up on the last day, to things not going through the triangle, to just equipment not working, to the telescope is not working. There seems to be, to me, a bit of a correlation between the more focused energy and attention something has, the more likely it is to not work. And I wonder if whatever this system is that's there is interpreting our focused attention on something as a command for it to disable that thing because it's a threat to what we're doing. And so whatever system is there that has that ability is turning stuff off, or stopping it from working or being successful, because it thinks that our attention and focus is telling it, hey, this is danger, neutralize it. Maybe, I often think about, you've got, all these rigs out there, the oil derricks, right? And now they've got sensors on them that communicate with satellites, that then the satellites beam to home operations the information about everything that's going on with that derrick, in case there's a problem. What if, before we were around, there was some massive mining operation to get gold, right? I mean, because that becomes the thing that ancient cultures value, right? And they want to give to the gods. So maybe there was a gold mining operation, and it was on a massive scale, and it was, overseen by these semi AI drones that would be able to say, um, you know, big earth change, happening, earthquake, whatever, tsunamis, because, you know, the earth is very unstable in the span of long periods of time. And maybe they were meant to relay information of like an issue with the operation or the equipment, or they were meant to stop something from interfering with the equipment. Maybe it's a defense mechanism, you know, and it's still around. Or, I often like to think about the anomaly above the triangle as a connected space, right? I think, I believe that in some scenarios, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, monsters, they're all the same thing, as far as they're viewed or experienced through temporary windows or doors that open between spaces, places, and time. And, I wonder if that triangle is not, anomaly is not a part of a multiple interacting world, or a multiple dimension or time. And when we shoot a rocket into it in some other space, place, or time, there's scientists looking at it and they see this bright object going in the sky. So they send out a drone to see what it is. And we see their drone and we think it's a UFO, right? So maybe we're just connected to other spaces, places, times, whatever you want to call it, in that one location, that creates a lot of phenomena just by fact of the massive changes in physics taking place between worlds that aren't the same, dimensions that aren't the same. If you believe it's portal or wormhole, location, well, then that anytime that opens or closes, or opens or is stable, you're going to see, a time dilation effect. You're going to see a warping of space time, like you would close to a black hole. So, I think all of those things are possibility. There have been people that said that, there are beings, and I subscribe a little more to the interdimensional idea of extraterrestrials than linear space travel. They're sitting in their seat and they're traveling for 1 billion miles linearly across the galaxy. I don't think that that's as realistic scientifically as a potential future technology being able to utilize existing uh, doorway opportunities or create them to enter and exit. And again, if you're if you exist in a higher dimension than us, it would make sense that you can see and interact with us, but we can't with you. It's the same as fish in a pond. They know their world underwater, don't know that anything exists outside of it. Yet, we can exist in their space, right? We can put on scuba gear and go swimming around. We can fish. We can grab them and take them and then throw them back. But they cannot do any of that with our space. And so it why not have another sort of dimension or level of existence where something or someone or however it is able to interact with our space, but we can't with theirs, just like the fish can't, but we can with them. So I think that could be a possibility. um, I think there could be a purely scientific, non-exotic, but I think the science would be exotic in its own, so that it still would be, magical in a way. But the UAPs, the spherical UAPs that pop out, that are triggered, that seem to be poking their head around as to what's going on over here. Is this something I need to deal with? Um, that to me is very intriguing, and I truly believe that the first, UFO, whatever you want to call it, that will sort of catch and dissect in a way publicly, right? That everyone knows about is going to be a spherical, you know, basketball or larger sized object that no one's going to be able to open up, but you can get readings on that something's going on. It's like kind of like the Bet Spear was, right? And and I think that's going to be the first sort of introduction to non-man-made um, craft, or whatever you want to call it, but without us in our, maybe not ever in our lifetimes knowing what it is. But I think that's sort of to me, that feels like logically the next step of what we're going to learn. But again, I'm looking at it from my monkey's brain perspective right now. And I think that the reality of whatever is going on in the science is just not something we can comprehend, which is why I think that you're seeing so much in entertainment involving the multiverse and quantum
Right.
realm and dimensions. It's it's inspiring the kids it's geared to, or the kids that are at an age where they're forming their view of the world and their place in it, to go into those sorts of scientists so that they can be the generations to understand it.
I want to ask you, so we got about 90 seconds left.
The way I
Do you,
talk, is that enough time?
yeah, I think so. We'll sneak it in. I have heard that there are way more Skinwalker Ranch type properties around North America and the world than we're actually admitting to, where phenomena is taking place. Do you think that a lot of these places need to be investigated
Absolutely.
the same
Yeah,
way?
absolutely. There's a few that are known, but you know, very difficult to get to, right? I mean, there was the place was a Stardust Ranch, right? Where the owner said he, fought an alien with a sword, but he died, and the wife sold it off to be chopped up into parcels for real estate because she couldn't afford it. Like, that's a place that's not been heavily investigated. Um, there's a lot of places that Bob Bigelow bought, or looked at, places that Brandon goes to, places that, internationally, there's a lot of them. Hesdalin, the Hesdalin Lights has a lot of similarities to what goes on at Skinwalker Ranch. But look how long it took from the writing of the book for people to get interested, and for it to be a full-blown experiment, investigations, 15 years, for Skinwalker Ranch. So there's no big university studies with big, huge grants to go and do this stuff. You rely on television shows and private individuals who, there aren't enough of them that are willing to put forward what Brandon has, or the History Channel. So it's a long road to get that level of investigation, because once you do and the sharing of information happens, then we learn a lot more.
All right, thank you. We got Mark Marinaccio for another half an hour here on Spaced Out Radio. What type of material is he hiding, and what's he up to next? Busy final half hour of SOR right after this. Stay tuned, everybody. We will be right back. Glad you're enjoying yourself, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk forever. I love this stuff. It's my, it's just, my kids even know, if you ask them what does dad like to talk about most, it's this kind of stuff. It's stories about, this kind of stuff.
One of our listeners says, Mr. Bigelow just bought property right down the road in the woods. It's public information. Same woods I drive through. Makes my spider senses tingle.
Where's that?
I've just tried. That's exactly what I asked.
I mean, Bob Bigelow, he got out of the ranch like a lot of people do because of stuff that happened to his family that he equates to being, because of the ranch. It's a very real thing. So I don't know why he would. I mean, well, that's not true. There is a lot of reasons why he would, but that'd be interesting to know.
Middleburg, Florida. Where is Middleburg?
Sure, he's not just building like a. Here we go, Robert Bigelow. Let's see
maps. Where are we located? Where is Middleburg? It's on the northeast by just southwest of Jacksonville.
Well, that's right where I go there all the time. It's right where my wife's from, Amelia Island. What's it called?
Middleburg.
Okay, Florida Bluff. Is this it? Bigelow Mansion. 1950. Maybe it's from where his family's from, because there's a place called Bigelow Mansion.
There's the Black Creek Ravines Conservation Area. I think that's what they're talking about. Spin Beings, how you doing, Elsa? Good to see you. What am I missing to repost, Kira? You don't need to super chat in order to do that, hon.
I don't see anything about it. I mean, I have a Florida license, but I mean, I don't a real license, but I think that he probably bought it under a business name. But I don't see anything here. I'm not finding anything. I'd love to know where he's getting that from. I'd love to look into it more. How he knows it's Bigelow, and and where.
My area where I live, dude, it is like
information. I don't know.
My area where I live, it is completely haunted.
Oh yeah,
lots of UFOs and cryptids here too. I got the trifecta in my backyard, man.
See, I can't find anything on it online. If it had the idea of power centers, it goes back to sort of the quantum physics of things, right? The we know quantum entanglement is real, but we don't see the connection between how it works, which suggests there's a connection that takes place outside of our observable universe. And a lot of the ideas of the way in which these objects communicate or relay information to wherever it is, home base or whatever, is through a sort of a quantum transmission that disrupts space-time. And so you may be caught in the wake of that transmission if you're, there's something up there and then something below the ground, communicating with each other, and your house is on that property through where that beam goes. Then you may see in your house or on that property things from different spaces, places, and times, because you're disrupting space-time. at that location. I kind of think that's what's happening in a lot of places. Um, Stargazer, yes, Amelia Island does have pretty beaches. It's a nice place, very idyllic. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a science. My interest was always the science of the unexplained, because I think that's like, where science fiction meets science fact. If you could sort of be the sci-fi guy that breaks the technology that comes out because, you suggested it. I think that would be really cool. But it also, um, I just love these theoretical ideas, about how things could be happening. I think it's just, if I was smarter, I would have gone into, quantum mechanics,
Right.
instead of television, but I definitely don't have the brain for that.
Hold on right there. We're going to come back in 5 seconds. And here we go, everybody. Here we go with the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us as we continue on with the second half of the show. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Here we go. Final half hour with Mark Marinaccio, producer, director, podcaster, all things strange. Mark, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Now, our radio audience won't be able to see this, but during one of our breaks, you held up a piece of metal.
I did.
And you were kind of bragging about this. What is this metal chunk all about?
All right, I'll give you the backstory. So after I did season 3, Skinwalker Ranch, I was commissioned in a development deal with History Channel to document my own attempts at capturing evidence of UFOs. I had an approach that was different. I think that one of the issues with UFOs are and people in the public is that all they ever see are the same cell phone, blurry, distant blobs and lights in the sky. And so I had the idea to get a World War II aerial reconnaissance camera. It's a big, giant camera. It's out for repair. I don't have it with me. Giant camera that uses like 100-foot roll of film that is 5 inches by 7 inches per shot. It's large format photography, but large format photography is, sheets because it's so big. But this was a camera cameras they developed so that the guys could sit outside the airplanes and click, wind, and then those are the shots you see, where they're blowing up the size of the wall, and you could see troop movements and vehicles and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, well, if I can catch something with one of those, that would have the resolution. It's unmatched. There's literally no camera, no digital camera, unless it's like military or something, that has the amount of resolution of that large of a piece of film, even medium format. Like we have digital cameras now that are 35 millimeter equivalent film, but then you go to medium format, which is more like that, right? There's like, I think, one digital back maker for that resolution. Excuse me, it's my eye. But that's it. Then there's no like large format digital equivalent. So it's like, it'll be the best resolution. You'll be able to blow it up and see, rivets on the thing if they exist. So anyway, my approach was to go out and to first figure out where to go look for UFOs. I had become frustrated with there's no, very up-to-date UFO reporting database. Everything was take months before it would show up, and so I developed this app thanks to AI and ChatGPT. It was a web app, UFOprotracker.com. where people could just, immediately take a picture, put information, upload it to the app, and have a live map showing you that kind of stuff, which Enigma Labs wound up doing, a lot better than me. But so I was like, where am I going to go see a UFO? And so then I was like, well, I could do that, but I need to like really understand why they're seen where they're seen. And so I met with a friend of mine, who had a theory about the UFOs in that area, more the spherical type ones. This is in Nevada, southern Nevada. Believe that they required some type of conductivity or something for maybe propulsion or fuel, and so they were present more around areas that had high minerals and heavy metal deposits, where the ground was essentially conductive. And southern Nevada, especially, there's not just silver and all stuff, but there's a lot of metals there. So I looked at a UFO hotspot map, and from reports of people, and then looked at a geological survey map and sort of cross-referenced the two, where the heavy metal deposits are and the hot spots. And I went there and I did a test to test the ground for conductivity, and set up shop there, to see if I could see UFO. And I went back multiple times and did see some crazy stuff one afternoon as the sun was setting. We were there. So I actually had my son out with me that time, and a friend who was helping me film. And throughout the early part of the day, we kept on seeing these helicopters in a valley, and there was dry lake bed, and then there were two, mountain ranges on either side of us. We kept on seeing these helicopters. It looked kind of like the Magnum PI one, on either side, kind of coming in and dipping down, like right behind the mountain. And he was like, oh, it's from there's training exercises or something probably going on. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then just around sunset, from above one of the mountain ranges to the right, like there's just these lights started appearing, and then kind of like moving and disappearing. My son was actually the first one to see one. And then these helicopters would come out of nowhere that we saw that day and kind of go to where it is and then drop behind the mountain. We even saw one that kind of looked like it split and moved. And then, on the opposite mountain, there's some kind of strange light, and the helicopter there, and then drops down, disappears. And I got some of it. We got some of it on film. I was like, this is just wild. And then it all stopped, and then it got dark. And later at night, there was just this bright light on the left-hand side mountain, just this bright light in the center of the mountain. And I was like, well, maybe it's somebody like in a dirt, a dirt toy, off-roading. And he's like, dude, that's the side of a mountain. Like, there's no trail there. There's nothing there. Like, you can't drive up it. And then it just sort of started descending and then disappeared. And then after that, there was like an orange light on the top of the mountain that seemed to be sort of like tracing the mountain ridge line. And again, I'm like, well, maybe it's somebody in like, he's like, dude, that's, you can't get up there. There's nothing, that's a jagged mountaintop. Like, there's no people or, because this was moving like a car, and it disappeared. And so I went poking around down there, and, because it wasn't that far away. I went towards that area, and I didn't find it, but then I just sort of stumbled across something that I pulled out of the ground, and it was this. And it's solid. It's like it's very light, but it's incredibly strong. Can't break it or anything. Like, it's incredibly strong. And at first glance, I was like, oh, slag or something burned up and somebody drove through it. I don't know. It's got a real, I had a really good metal detector, and I was able to say, oh, it's got some, aluminum, tin, iron, maybe some silver in there. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's worth something. And so I took the readings and some pictures of it and sent it to some people, a very well-known scientist, that you guys would all know, but I can't say, and then a geological engineer. And independently, these guys don't know each other, two different parts of the world. They both said the same thing, that this, from the readings, the initial readings, and from the look of it and what it is, this looks like very, very high probability that this is something that burned up and melted on entry into Earth's atmosphere. And then when it hit the ground, that's the cracks in the dry lake bed that formed those lines on the bottom of it. It's not tires. The tire would drive through molten metal and be like, catch on fire and burn. It's not going to drive over this. Um, and so, you know, maybe there's a lot more silver in it. I don't know. So if I get like an XRF or a full analysis of it, if it's part of a satellite or an airplane or something like that, it'll be registered and it'll show up. But why in the area with heavy metal deposits in the ground, conductivity, reports of UFOs everywhere, am I finding this hunk of space metal? It doesn't, I don't know. I don't know. Even if it is something that just burned up, is this a spot where objects that burn up in the atmosphere land? Um, that'd be cool to know, but that's not on any map or written anywhere. And again, it's not somebody's not driving out there. I mean, I had a crazy four-wheel drive off-road truck to get out to where I was, and there's nobody around for 100 miles, Um, what's it? What is it? It doesn't smell. I mean, it's got everything still embedded in it from rocks and whatnot. You could scratch it and get shiny. If I put like water or anything on it, it becomes very shiny, um, and before it goes back to looking like this. So I got no idea what it is. I just find it very interesting.
All right. I want to change subjects here because one of the big complaints that I have had with the UFO community is we seem to have pushed experiencers to the wayside. You have a brand new project coming out that you're working on, looking for experiencers to tell their story. What's this all about?
So I got a reply to Jeremy Jones here, who said that Grant Cameron released a book with something just like that. Um, I don't know. Maybe if he can tell us, because I'd like to know. I mean, I do. This is one reason I love doing this kind of stuff, because if anybody recognizes that, um, I love to know what thoughts are, because you know, these are like, let's see, Paul Damone, Southern Nevada, um, molten metal UFO Pope. Okay, something there for real. Lex Diaz. Yeah, I would like to know. I mean, Um, so the project I'm working on now is a series for a major cable network where people who have had experiences, be it a UFO sighting, abduction, visitation, some kind of encounter, ideally, if they've got some piece of evidence, or if not, at least a lot of pieces of information, it's an opportunity for them to bring that to our experts and to a fleet of majorly highly credentialed experts, to have their story, and if they have any evidence, analyzed and have essentially an answer provided to them about what it is they saw, captured, or experienced. This is the only time that I've ever seen where anybody, can have the opportunity to come forward with something, even if it's just a story, and have, the highest level research and analysis done to give them some conclusive results as to what it was that they experienced. And that goes beyond like, is this a UFO or not? It could be, a lot of correlative data and deep research that helps to draw connections between the whys that people ask. Why did this thing happen to me when I was a kid? And then it happened to me again when I was adult, and then I found my grandfather's journal, and it happened to him when he was a kid. And does it have something to do with where I live? Is it one of these locations like Skinwalker Ranch where they don't even know what's involved, or what's taken place there historically, or even from mythology and lore? Is there something in lineage and family? Is there there's a lot of people that come from the Hudson Valley, and I did a documentary there, Alien Invasion Hudson Valley, where I worked with a lot of experiencers. And in the early 90s, there was a 4-year period where it was the number one place on the planet for the most and frequent and, in a period of time, UFO sightings, ET visitations, and alien abductions. Something was going on there in a major, major way. Um, Whether it's, was it government or military or not. Um, so, you know, some people don't even know that the experience they have up there is tied to other people's experiences, or people see things, but they didn't get footage, and can we can give them images to see if it is, and then we know, you know, crowdsourced that same image was that same object was seen in 100 different places that day. And people did get footage of it. So it's like crowdsourcing meets like high level research, NASA and military analysis and intelligence. I mean, there's just it's an opportunity. If I wasn't making the show, I would bring that medal. And I would say, this is the story. Tell me what this is, and what it made for. Now I can go to any sort of lab, obviously, but it's expensive. So sometimes it's people just can't even afford to get an analysis done that they want, because who's going to pay for it? We can. So it's an opportunity for people that if they want to share their story and they have a reason for why they want to, either they want some answers about their experience, they want some authentication or validation for their footage. They want to, they need to share it with the world. They want to make sure others are known. Sometimes people are like, I just want to know that I'm not the only one like this out there, that others have gone through what I've gone through. For some people, it's like, what happened to me physically? Well, we can cross-reference and correlate your experience to a lot of recently released the formally classified government documents about these things that say this is been documented what happened to you. So that's the opportunity. And so if anybody wants to apply to come on the show, we're filming fast in a really cool location you'll want to go to. They can just go to realufoshow.com. And apply.
Love it. Love it. And I'm going to say thank you for sticking up for the experiencers.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't in this field. I've literally had scientists, key scientists, say the experiencers need to go away. They need to leave ufology alone. And yet here you are saying, screw that.
That makes no sense. How do you know if you're even if you're talking about a science that we don't understand or know what it is yet? Well, then how can you discount a human experience as not being integral to understanding the science? We don't know at what level that science operates. If you're talking about science, you don't know, then you don't know what it interacts with. You don't know what the stimuli is that it creates, and you don't know how biological and non-biological objects will react to the stimuli to know that there's no value in a human experience. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Until you know the science, you can't know that the human experience isn't valuable towards it. It's ridiculous.
I agree. Now, I am going to publicly say that I did push Samantha Mowat, one of our favorites around here. And if you watch our audience group here, whether or not they want Samantha on that show, they're going to tell you here momentarily. So for our radio audience, you won't be able to see our YouTube chat, but I'm pretty sure Mark will get a nice picture of what they think of Samantha on this show.
Ultimately, it's the network's decision. All I can do is paint the best picture of whoever comes forward,
paint that picture, man.
And then the value of this person's story. But we have to temper, as only 6 episodes, 25, 30 stories. We have to make sure that there's a variety. And so sometimes someone's got too much of the same.
I want to bring you up here in the summer. I think you need to come visit in the summer, because
I would love to.
That way, when Samantha and I get going, anything is possible. We'll see some aliens in the forest.
Tell her to hit me up directly. She's been in touch with my my team, but she can hit me up directly, and maybe I can find something else. If not, somebody else of the team's reaching out. But I would love to come up there, definitely in the summer, not the winter.
Yeah. Here's some of the comments. If alien hybrids are a thing, Samantha takes the cake. We love
That's
Samantha.
what my book's about. My science fiction novel, Humans, Gods, and Hybrids.
Oh yeah. Yes. Samantha is magic. Samantha is amazing. Oh yeah, everybody wants a little piece of Samantha Moe. Yes, please to have Samantha on that show. That's just the way it is, man. The way it is.
Hopefully we can get her on. If not this, then something else.
Oh yeah, she's well worth it. Well worth it, and very much worth the price of admission. I could say that. And I will tell you, when we had our experience in the forest this year, it was bloody amazing because she had been manifesting that to happen on camera for at least a month prior. She had been
Wow.
putting the energy out. And not only did we have in our location have the UFO landing, we had summoned another UFO the night before.
Oh, gee.
We had Bigfoot around, ghosts all around us, because this location is Canada's largest unsolved mass murder,
Oh,
which was
wow.
an airplane that blew up in the sky 25 miles into the forest from my town,
Okay.
and everything was there. Everything was there, and I absolutely will stand 100% behind Samantha. That's for sure, because I've seen it in action. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
everybody wants Sam. I'm seeing this here.
Yeah. Yeah, Samantha's amazing. It's funny, I tried calling her today before the show and couldn't get a hold of her. I think
I
it's
see a
weird.
lot of people on here saying, I've had experience, I have experience. Please go to the link, realufoshow.com. You got to do it fast, though. You got to put everything in there that's on that form because we are days away from filming and the time is running out for any other.
What do you want for experiencers? Do you want just UFO alien experiencers, or do you want missing time? Do you want
Yeah.
paranormal?
No, we're not doing like ghosts and Bigfoot, because it is very much alien UFO kind of related for this specific one. But that's not to say we don't have people that fall into that category because look, I mean, I think shadow figures are interdimensional beings. I don't think they're ghosts. So, it's sometimes it's just a matter of perspective on it. But yeah, but it should be more geared towards this idea of sightings, close encounters, abductions, especially with evidence. Anybody with evidence that can be looked at and in that way is going to get to the front of the line just because that's our hosts are really looking for that. They're looking for that gem, of evidence that changes the game.
It is all about the evidence in the end, isn't it?
It is right. It is right now, right? I mean, that's right now. It's valuable because there's a lack of enough of it to get an understanding. It's just like we need more of it to really understand, right? It's even a clear image or video or movement or beings or phenomena, whether it's portals opening up or gateways or whatever, any of that, because of the amount of data that is available to look at everything else around that time, date, and location that it happened, gives us such a wide sort of area to be able to approach it from and to get to the bottom of it.
We got 90 seconds to go here tonight with you on Spaced Out Radio, Mark. And this has been an absolute pleasure to
Thank you. Yeah,
have
it's been
you
a lot of
here.
fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And the stories you were sharing from your own personal experiences to Skinwalker Ranch were absolutely phenomenal. I want to say thank you for that, my man.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Always,
And
always love talking.
do us a favor, if you don't mind. Would you mind telling our audience where they can find your YouTube channel, your podcast, how they can get a hold of you once again?
Yeah, so it's on all social media at Strange Story Co. I actually have to change my YouTube. I think it's Strange Story, but you can go strangestory.com, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, at Strange Story Co., even Twitter. So yeah, hit me up, reach out. I love talking to people. As long as I don't as long as I don't have that 300 spam messages to weed through to find the people that are messaging me, I always try to connect with people and they reach out. But there's also, if you go to strangestory.com, there's a link at the top about Strange Story Television, which is coming soon. You can go and you can fill in a notify me form there. It's an email. so he can get more updates on different things that I'm doing or coming out. But the biggest following is Facebook. It seems to be where the most people are that engage. But again, I'm on all of it.
Awesome.
Strange Story Co.
Mark, thank you again for being on
Thanks,
Spaced
Dave.
Out Radio.
Thanks for having
Absolute
me on.
pleasure. Mark Marinaccio, everyone.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, Dave.
Coming up next, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing. Travis William Moostus takes on the Cryptid Report. It's Dave 101 night and the strange news of the week. All in hour number 3 next. Thank you very much, my man.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. A lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. Very much appreciate you doing that. Thank you.
How come I can't get there? It is. I have to find out in the live video. All right.
There we go. All right, dude. I will let you go and enjoy your rest of your evening.
Thanks,
But
Dave. Really appreciate it. And anytime, I'm happy to come back and talk any other time. I love doing this. It'd be a couple of weeks once we're done filming, but
yeah. All right, buddy.
Have
Take
a good
care.
night. Take care.
What a great guy. Absolute great guy. I'm going to step away here. I'll be right back, guys. That was a good show. Very good show. Tomorrow night on the show, if you're going to tune on in, we are going to have Jackie Harmon talking West Coast Sasquatch. It's going to be a lot of fun. So you make sure that you check us on out tomorrow night. Hello, Heather McIntyre. How are you? Killing Reality. Thanks for coming on in. We got 1 minute. Remember, Reno is coming up May 10th through 12th. You have until April 10th to let us know you're coming, and we're going to get your tickets available to you. $100 for VIP, $60 for regular tickets. You get the live show on Friday. After that, the VIP party. Following that on Saturday with a ghost tour from Merle and a UFO Skywatch. Who's coming? Well, Melinda Leslie. She's going to do the Skywatch on the Saturday night. Lorian Fenton, Geraldine Orozco, Les Velez, Science Bob, Lala Bright. Merle is going to be there. Carter Bouchard, Bigfoot investigator, is there. Yet, if you need a room discount, we may have a few left. We're going to check on that. So message me privately, and we can try and hook that on up. But we are going to have a lot of fun, and we want you there. Go to info@spacedoutradio.com. Our Keith Andrews is going to be there as well. info@spacedoutradio.com. Reserve your tickets today, and we're going to be making up tickets very, very soon, getting things going. Here we go, everybody.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Let's get the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio going tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Joko Sirius. Joko Sirius is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another spooky story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. In 2004, in South Africa's mother city, Cape Town, a guest house owner, his family, and several guests were woken in the middle of the night after a dinner party to the sound of a car engine revving extremely loudly in the driveway, followed by a great crashing, thudding sound. They initially thought it was an attempted theft, so the occupants of the property bolted outside and someone made a call to the police. The area where the car was parked was well lit, and it was quickly figured out that there was no one in the vehicle, which was a small French-manufactured stick-shift hatchback. The owner, Ian Scheidekat, was still in possession of the key, and there was no damage to indicate an attempted theft. Just a few moments after everyone started gathering outside, the car's engine roared to life again and began revving as if someone or something had a foot on the gas pedal. More bizarrely, it suddenly leaped backward with some force, twice. The owner, his family, and guests of the accommodation establishment, 7 people at this point, couldn't believe what they were witnessing. The engine then fell silent, and everyone started discussing plausible explanations for what they'd just seen from a distance. No one had any plausible explanations. At this point, 2 police officers arrived at what they believed was the scene of an attempted vehicle theft. Struggling to comprehend the events being described and no doubt looking for signs of intoxication, proof suddenly appeared in the form of the car's engine coming to life once more. All witnesses described the distinct pattern of revving as if someone were gunning the gas pedal. The car then jumped straight backward into a hibiscus tree, and the activity stopped permanently. Afterwards, it was discovered that there had been no interference with the vehicle's ignition, and the parking brake had been engaged the whole time. The officer's baffling police report and witness accounts quickly gripped national media, and the guest homeowner was invited to speak on radio. The attention the story gathered was so widespread that an exorcist from the United States made contact and offered his services. Representatives of Renault, South Africa, the vehicle manufacturer, were called on to explain the car's behavior. One of these theories was that all 9 witnesses had been intoxicated, presumably including the police officers. A service advisor explained that the events were technically impossible, as the stick shift was not in gear, the parking brake was engaged, the ignition was never switched on, and there was no manual pressing of the gas pedal. None of several, sometimes conflicting, expert explanations was accepted by the general public, who remained convinced that something beyond their realm took the wheel that night. What do you think? Number 2. President John F. Kennedy's Lincoln limousine. The limousine in which President John F. Kennedy was shot lives in the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and is treated with reverence by both staff and visitors. Numerous people who spent time at the display to contemplate the tragedy of November 22, 1963, went on to report a supernatural presence around the pristinely kept, modified Lincoln Continental 4-door convertible. A cluster of specific accounts describe a gray figure standing near the car who waves before placing a red rose on the car's hood. Another group of reports detail a figure seated in the back passenger side seat. The press has since labeled the limo the death car. Sightings of the gray man, by both museum staff and visitors, increase around the date of President Kennedy's assassination in November, and a number of people describe a feeling that a message is being relayed, specifically that JFK was shot by 2 men, one of whom he saw standing on a lawn with trees above. The spooky relic of the tragic day continues to draw visitors, and reports of the gray man still surface regularly.
Thank you, Steve, for another great story on Among the Missing. If you want more just like that, head on over to youtube.com/Among the Missing. Make sure you hit subscribe and ring that bell, and we'll have another story for you tomorrow night. Here we go. Cryptid Report. Filling in for a sick Robin Haynes, Travis William-Moostus returns for the Cryptid Report. Travis William-Moostus, always excited to be back on Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
Oh, it's been an excellent evening, excellent day, very productive stuff. Like I said, just been top notch on the art, getting it done. I'm like rounding out about, like I said, for sure about 67 pictures that are going into my next project. So it's been tons of work, bud. Tons of work.
How's the kitty doing? Because last time you were on the air, your little kitten was running all havoc all over the place. We could hear in the background. It was awesome. Absolutely awesome.
Well, he's sleeping right now, but I'm sure he'll wake up. And when he hears me talking here, he usually gets up, and when he knows I'm streaming, and tries to come see what's going on here on the table. You know, there's action happening, right? So tries to get involved.
For people tuning in for the first time and may not know who Travis is, he is literally a monster hunter from the Cree Nation, just north of Edmonton, Alberta. And here he is telling us about some of the monsters that he has encountered. Travis, I know you do a lot in the astral world, but let's keep it on Earth tonight, if you don't mind. What are some of the stranger creatures that people may not have heard of that you have actually encountered?
All right. Yeah. No, like, so I've encountered a lot of different kind of I should say they were more like different kind of entity beings on Earth that were kind of like I said, like I said, Sasquatch, cryptids like that. Along those lines, there was a lot of different kind of like, I should say like over the years, like different kind of like spiritual messages and meanings behind a lot of these cryptids that were involved in a lot of the experiences I had. Like it was more like a lot of them carried a lot of different kind of bad omens that were like that were along with them, right? Like for example, the moose. Just for one, I was out hunting one time, me and my father, and when I came across this moose that was fighting another one, it actually stopped fighting the other moose. The other moose ran away, and then this moose just like walked out on the road, and it was like fearless. So I was like, okay, and I was already out on the road there, and I had my gun loaded and ready to blast, and I blasted it like 5 times, and it just stood there. So I was like, wow, all right. So I put in another, like, and I was aiming for, like kill shots and another 5 rounds and nothing. So I followed it into the woods after loading it again, and yeah, there was no blood, there was nothing. Like I was like, wow. And I heard the moose just like walking into the woods, and so I followed it, and then for a while there, but I could never see it like when it was in there, but I heard it walking, and it just kept trying to lead me into there more and more and more and stuff. And then I was like, all right, well, we're losing it. It's getting nightfall. Like by the time I get it or see it, it's going to be dark out. So I'm like, all right, I got to turn back around. But my dad said that was like a bad sign for our traditional ways, like as native people, like for us, like as hunters, like hunter traditional ways, like that means like a hunter, like a well-known hunter was going to die in the family. That was a predominant hunter, right? So like a week or 2 later, my uncle passed away from his sickness or illness, right? Like one of my uncles, and that's how we knew like that was what that meant after, right? Like a week or 2 later. But yeah, so like there was like stuff like that. Other than that, it's been like I've seen a lot of ET crafts, different kind of extraterrestrials that have been like I said, floating around and been around in the area. And aside from all that, it's been like over the years, like man buffalo eater spirits have been like plaguing the kind of like people and towns and folks that just and like I said, other than that, you get a lot of reports of like goat people, men and women, running around in the area, and also large kind of like coyote hybrids. These guys are like what you'd be like dog man kind of deal. Coyote hybrid and wolf hybrid kind of folks that manage to survive out there in the woods and wilderness. And also you get a lot of tree folk out there, like I said, the tree peekers that end up like stalking you in the woods, and you wouldn't even be able to see them like if you try to find them, like because they're just like they could blend in with the trees, and they form themselves into stumps and hide around. And then also too, you get the little people, and that's like when you're in that high vibrational frequency and you're walking out there and all the plants are vibrating on this frequency, because it's all giving off, even the rocks, everything's all giving off frequency in there. So the water, everything, right? So it's like you encounter all these different like things, like I said, the little people, and you start to see some like different kind of stuff out there. And you can never be too sure. Like there's been like large animal sightings out here too, with cougars like being as big as 10 feet tall, and lynx running around in packs of 10 that were just spotted like today. So things like there's a lot of predatory animals that run around these woods and stuff. So like there's other things that they're afraid of, and that's when you start to notice things are around, or like when you see these creatures, you're wondering what's chasing them out of the woods, right?
You have this one incident that I was hoping you were to mention about this beaver man or something like that.
The beaver man.
Yeah.
Incident with the beaver man,
or a gopher man, or something along those lines.
Oh, you mean like you're talking like mole people and stuff like that along that?
Sorry.
Yeah. These are like inner dwelling folks. That would be like astral and spiritual level kind of things. That would be kind of like that kind of stuff. Like when I mentioned that kind of inner earth, like inner earth dimensional beings, that would line up with that.
All right. Tony in the UK is
another.
saying,
Sorry, go ahead.
He has a question for you. He's saying, I was listening to Katie Page on a podcast the other night, and she witnessed, I'm sure, she said, an upright platypus type cryptid. Have you come across or had reports of them?
Like a duck-billed man kind of deal. I haven't heard anything like about a duck-billed man like around the area. I'm just like thinking about it all now. No, I haven't heard of anything like that. But like I said, like antler people, deer people, and like spiritual beings that are like out there in the forest that like are very dark oriented. I should just say they're very malicious and they're kind of like out there like soul taking and like very dark entity kind of deals. Other than that, like there are peaceful beings though of the forest, and some of them do resemble like deer folks, but they're totally different. And these like and there's like a lot of ceremonies connected to that, and it's like kind of like on a spiritual level, and there's like a whole bunch of other connections to them. And it's like it's like almost like a vision level kind of ceremony. But these beings had existed a long time ago. They still like I said, their spirits are still around. Like a lot of like the man buffalo eater spirits are still around, and just different things like like a lot of these darker spirits and stuff. It's all balanced, right? There's light and there's like lower frequencies as well, right? It's all one thing, like realistically. So, but it's all, there's the balance in between it, and it's frequency, right? And so like when you're out there, it's just a matter of like how you're going about it and what kind of like levels of energy and things you're connecting with. And if you come across an encounter, like there's usually meaning to it, or like a deeper connection, I should say, to it in that sense.
When you talk about the of inner earth, what is it like having those creatures around? What are we dealing with, since most of us have never seen them?
Yeah, inner earth, it's always a surprise to me whenever I manage to be pulled or something calls to me out there, with in terms of from seeing all different kind of sorts of beings down in inner earth. There was many different kinds of lower vibrational entities, and then there was also very large and also very positive numbers of like good vibrational frequency beings out there as well, just like from the crystal kingdoms and different kind of things that exist within that frequency down there. But also too, like within inner earth, there's a lot of dimensional portals and dimensional planes that exist. And that's where it starts to go into spirituality, and like things start to try to cross on through and latch on, and different kind of entities try to cross on through, whether it's from different dimensions or far out places in the galaxy. It's and a lot of times like a lot of these portals too that were built on Earth that got buried are still submerged there, and a lot of these temples and places around the world, and are just in the oceans. And a lot of times beings are able to come through, or ships or different kind of things, and our people are able to go across. And that's how people used to do it years ago, thousands of years ago, with portals. And inner earth was like I said, it was like considered that when the June 21st, the summer solstice, was like the highest vibrational frequency of the year. These portals would open, as I mentioned before in previous podcasts, and people would actually physically walk through, and not just not only because like if you can also enter through astral planes and astral spirituality, right? Like if you're not there physically, but people can walk through physically and enter some of these mystical places, and these dimensional planes, and actually visit civilizations and long forgotten kind of places that haven't been, I guess, accessed in thousands of years.
Are there humans down there?
Yes. There's many different types, first generational humans and tribes, and like a lot of native tribes. Like there's a lot of stories about how there's like they're still thriving down there, and living down there. And like I said, a lot of these portals and the natives would go through would actually bring them there, and it'd be like a means of trade, and you'd be like bringing like stuff from the top world to trade with them, and they often give back like crystals and different kind of things like from the inner earth, and it was just kind of like a trade-off, like in that sense, like it was like a kind of like a meeting and greeting, and it was like from the four directions and all these like I said, we're people of four directions, and that's kind of like where it's like it says that like a lot of native people, when they they come there from the four directions and meet there and do the trade with the people of the inner earth, are the civilizations there, and they're more than happy to meet with those people that can cross through the portal and make it actually down there.
What kind of humans are
they're like sometimes subgiants. Sometimes it's like larger, like I said, larger humanoid beings. Most of the time, like I said, it's like kind of like first civilizations on Earth a little bit. There's a lot of, sometimes there's some ETs down there, and sometimes there's like different kind of animal people, kind of humanoids down there still. Like that still exists, like lizard folks and different kind of like I said, like they're like blind folks and stuff like that, but they use like their antennas to see in the dark and stuff, and a lot of these folks, some of them are pale and whatnot from living down there all these years, and then like I said, and some of the insectoids and bugs too are down there as well, and I've had to deal with a lot of those. A lot of them are not on good levels spiritually, and also too with like same thing with like reptilians and all that. Like a lot of them are down there, not all of them are good, but yeah, in that sense, it's a lot of beings down there that have civilizations going on, and even the monks, Nepal monks, have access to these inner earth realms, and like I said, I've done a lot of work with them as well when times have called upon it, and that's been kind of like a thing.
How many times do these creatures visit, I guess, our side?
Well, when they make the crossover, like usually there's like always something going on with inner earth, and it's always like a point where a lot of us have to like always like tune into and check on, and if there's something that arises, it arises, right? But like for like a good solid like year, we're always doing work within inner earth, like whether it was like dimensional frequency bases, or if it was like distortion in our crystalline energy grids on the earth, or if it was how should I say it, there was like or if there was like ancient technology that was placed there from thousands of years ago, brought there and then waiting to be activated, things like that, shutting stuff down like that. And so like there was like a lot of processing going on, and a lot of people were in to help with that, and like doing those processes of spirituality, and also too, a lot of the guardians, like elemental guardians and spirits, were helping us to do that work as well, not just us. Like there was a lot of like the earth energy too, earth spirit energy, and that's like I said, a lot of dragons and different kind of spiritual beings that came through and helped us do that progress and make that progress. And it helped out. Like I said, like we brought there was like a lot of like correction and light that is still coming through from the sun and connecting, and this is like helping a lot of the vibrational frequencies, because like that chased a lot of them down into inner earth from on the surface. That's how come we don't see a lot of these darker frequencies like kind of parading about anymore. And also too, like when it comes down to we're seeing a lot more UFOs, a lot more motherships that are coming around, and people are able to experience these things. Are getting a lot more connection to like, hey, I'm feeling these ETs, and I've been getting a lot of that lately. Is people coming to me like and telling me about it, like they're like, yeah, I'm starting to see them and experience this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. This is like the contact. This is how it's going to be, and it isn't going to be an invasion. It's going to be people awakening and starting to, from the vibrational frequency. It's not going to be it's going to be unknowing, but the people that are doing the work are already making these connections and seeing them, and that's part of like preparing everyone for when they do come. Well, they already are here. They're already showing themselves. It's just a matter of time. And that's just kind of like what I've been like getting and receiving lately. And But yeah, it's it's been fun. Like, it's been good.
All right, Travis William Utus, thank you for being on the shortened edition of the Cryptid Report tonight. Very much appreciate it. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, it's a Dave 101. I'm going to complain about something. I can just feel it. And following that, the weird news of the week. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. All right, we are clear. Travis, thank you, buddy.
Hey,
Appreciate you on in. We'll talk to you on Tuesday night, okay?
all right, sounds good. See you around, bud.
All right.
See you
Take
around.
care.
Yeah, take.
Bye. There he goes. Travis William Mustus. God, I love that guy. His energy is like infectious. Mm-hmm. All right. Which Alex Sanchez, how you doing, man? Hello there, Stephanie Jackson. Rat 2. How you doing? Welcome to SOR chat. Yes. Ghost hunt in Reno, in Virginia City. Oh, excuse me. Hot liquid magma. Hello there, Chris. Teen, how are you? Sandra, I am feeling a little better. Much better than yesterday. I believe what caused everything yesterday was that well, a couple of things. I was overtired. My body was exhausted from working out, and I didn't have any sugar yesterday. I hadn't had sugar for a couple of days now, as I'm trying to relax and get my body back to normal. And it all seemed to hit yesterday. I literally went upstairs and I crashed like anything. Like, I was just out. Out. Yeah. So, working on it. Back at the gym tomorrow. Then Saturday. Maybe Sunday. So I'm looking forward to it. CPAP still working. Works better now that she upped the pressure after putting it down. So, yeah. I may take a couple days off in March, so that way we can I can recuperate a little bit. I haven't decided yet. How do we protect the compound from evil demonic spirits? You put golden light around you, my dear. Check again in 5 years? What am I checking in 5 years? Oh, my sleep study. Gotcha. Gotcha. I am feeling better today. And you know what I am noticing is since I went back to the gym and with the CPAP is it's so nice waking up in the morning and my body isn't hurting anymore. I don't feel like a 80-year-old grandfather crawling out of bed where everything is creaking. Feels good. Anyways, here we go with the next half hour, everybody. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Dave 101 coming up momentarily, then the strange news of the week. I want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, all of our archives are always free. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night where we say hello to all of you because it's my turn to say get off my lawn. It's the Dave 101.
It's time for Dave 101.
Open the doors, Dave! Dave, D-A-V-E! Dave's out here! Dave's the killer! Yeah! Dave's the killer!
Dave's a mess.
All right, here we go with the Dave 101 this week. And, you know, even though there's all this UFO news going on, I don't know about you, but I'm sick of it. I am so tired of this government initiative that is going on that's ruined this field, and I don't even know where it's going. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about with all of you tonight, and we may go in some different directions, we may not, but I want to talk to you about criticism to you. Because everybody has an opinion on what is right and what is wrong with ufology, the paranormal, supernatural, who's telling stories, who is not. And it just really seems like it doesn't matter whether you're in the paranormal world, the cryptid world, the consciousness world, or whatever, that everybody not only has an opinion, which is fine because everybody's allowed their own opinion, but they also have this wanting need to criticize those who disagree with them. The one thing that I have learned about the phenomena over the years, and the phenomena really is in control of everything, if you ask me, is it affects everybody differently. What you may see may not be what I see. What I experience may not be what you experience. And that is where the conundrums start, because we see a lot of people accusing others of lying. And I hate that word. It is such a strong, ugly word that I really do believe it needs to be thrown out of the vocabulary. All right. Yes, there are people who tell mistruths. Yes, there are people who lie about their experiences, about their contacts, about their information, where they worked, even down to their resume to make themselves look more important. But the criticism that some people are getting is so viral and so at times disgusting that catcalling, the name calling, the horrid names that people call, it doesn't need to be in this field. It makes it sound like an elementary school fight where kids are just trying to punk one another. It's become childish. And I do believe that whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on any other social media platform, it is really, really getting old. Many people are actually starting to leave the field because of the toxic nature that it surrounds. Many podcasters have decided to shut themselves down because they are done with the criticism. They are done with not growing. They are done with every time they have an opinion on something that somebody is always there to trash them down. It is something we've experienced here on dozens of occasions over the years. Now, for our terrestrial radio audience, you may not understand what this is like, but if you're following us on places like YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and elsewhere, you could see it happening a lot more. Now, the one thing that we forget is this is a very small community. This is a community of passionate people who, for the most part, have had extraordinary experiences. And we want to know truly what is going on and what we have seen with our own very eyes. What we don't like is when somebody tries to criticize our story. Look, many times I've had my stories criticized. I've had photographs criticized, including if you've ever looked on our social media and seen the ghost on the stairway in the barn. I remember having one critic say, well, nothing is true unless I am the one who verifies it. And I went, who are you? He was some two-bit paranormal investigator out of Ontario who thought, his work was the end all and be all. Well, he never got the photo. This is what I'm talking about. He that goes and trashes me, saying that I'm making up paranormal stories and photoshopping ghosts into photos. If you actually knew my computer experience, look, I can run a computer. I don't know how to program a computer. I don't know how to Photoshop. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. I don't know how to edit videos very well. And too many times right now, it is the cool thing to be so skeptical that you're not even believing your own mother if she were to tell you a story. The beautiful part about our field is the amazing encounters people are sharing publicly with people like me and people like you. Take, for instance, Samantha Mowat or our Keith Andrews, two people who I've had personal experiences with, called out all the time because they're different. It's not okay to be different in this field of difference. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. As Gary Nolan from Stanford University once said, we wouldn't have anywhere to start our research if it wasn't for the experiencers. And this is why experiencers are so important to me. I'm passionate about their stories. Do I believe every story that I hear? No, not at all. You do have to have your own level of skepticism and understanding to know whether or not somebody's pulling your leg or not. And trust me, people have tried on this show. And it's just one of those things where I just can't stand it. Why can we, or pardon me, why do we have such an attitude towards the experiencer? Now, I understand the answer of the skeptic, like there is no proof. You cannot prove it. There's no photographs, there's no video evidence. I wasn't there, so it didn't happen. This is what we get. People are experiencing the phenomenon happen as we speak. I could tell you this week, I've had a couple of paranormal experiences that really made me question what is going on in my own home. We've all had those. Does that make it that we're liars, that we're cheaters of the system? Because heaven forbid we saw something with our own eyes? No, it doesn't. It's one thing to criticize. And this is through life as well. It's one thing to criticize, but it's another thing to attack. And somewhere along the lines of the invention of social media 20 years ago, this has become blurred lines. We don't know how to react to anybody anymore because number one, we want to be offended by everything. Number two, we want to be that guy who debunks everybody. We want to be that person who's like, oh, that didn't happen. I remember somebody criticizing Samantha Mowat's and my experience in the forest with the extraterrestrials. Person said, that didn't happen. I went, oh, you were there? Where do you live? Gave me some country where he lived, some state where he lived in the U.S. And I said, do you know where Mission, British Columbia is? He goes, no. I said, so you weren't there. You weren't in the forest with us. And this is where the lines have been skewed a little bit. And it goes from Neil deGrasse Tyson all the way down. All the way down. Because what we've done is we've instituted opinion instead of fact. We've instituted opinion as our way to tell whether or not a story is believable or not. And if it doesn't match our opinion, then it's got to be wrong. It's got to be skeptical. It's got to be a story of absolute BS that we can't tell the truth on. That's not how the phenomena works, man. If you actually paid attention to the phenomena, okay, and understood that something is going on, you'd understand that people are having extraordinary experiences. And it may not be what you like, but it's what has happened to them. And I'm not saying that it shouldn't be questioned. But would you ever talk to your mom or your dad the way you talk to people on the internet? The way you talk to people in YouTube chat rooms or Facebook messaging or on Twitter? You wouldn't. Internet tough guys and internet tough girls is the new rage right now. They want to be offended by things. They want to get their opinion of their feelings out there. They don't care who they hurt as long as their feelings are heard. Same thing happening in our field. I don't like it. I wish it was 7 years ago, even though time somehow doesn't go backwards. And I don't have a time machine to make that happen. I just really, really want to allow everybody to have the time to share their experience without getting a new butthole carved by the keyboard warriors who will discourage them from ever sharing their experience again. I want to know about people's UFO experiences. I want to know about their close encounters. I want to know if they've had interaction with extraterrestrials. I want to know what the fear they had when they heard that Sasquatch or Dogman roaring in the forest. I laugh about people who say, oh, you didn't hear a Sasquatch in your area. You didn't have that encounter. But they've never traveled to where I live and know that you really need to learn your animals when you're out in the forest because there's a lot of things that can kill you. I think I could tell the difference between a Sasquatch roar and a black bear roar or a grizzly bear roar or a mountain lion roar. It's that simple. I don't know where we found the idea that we have to hate on people who share their experiences. The scientific community is doing it. The skeptical community is doing it. The people who have no interest in this field, but dabble in it every now and again because they saw a UFO report on television, well, they don't believe you either. We're on our own little island, experiencers. Just you and me. And hopefully a Taco Bell. Because even though I'm dieting right now, I will say this. I would cheat with Taco Bell. Totally would. Quit the negativity. We don't need any more negativity in this field. Just keep building people up. And if you think you're going to give that shot, you're going to give that shot to someone because you don't believe that, they were playing golf and all of a sudden Goat Man came and, put his horns right into his chest and broke his favorite putter. That's okay. We'll believe you here. Just tell the truth and let it happen. That is your Dave 101 for this week. Do me a favor. If you like what you hear, you don't like what you hear, leave a comment down below if you're on our YouTube channel. I'm very interested to see what you think, because I always am. Give me some listener reaction. I would appreciate that. And at that note, what do you think? Time to get to the news.
What time is it?
It's time for Shirky Poo's News!
Here we go with some weird, strange stories tonight. I hate to start with this one. I do. I question whether or not I was going to run this story, but hot dang, it's way too unbelievable, but it's also true. A Michigan transgender woman who identifies as Muslim is suing to get her genitals back. You heard me right. Brianna Kingsley, also known as Zara Breezy Muharib, took ex-boyfriend William Wojciechowski to court. Why? Well, see, William was cleaning out the fridge one day, and he decided, I'm just going to toss this bag. It's been in the fridge for a year. Well, what was in that bag was Brianna's surgically removed testicles. She had been saving her nuts for a rainy day. That one hurts just saying it. Kingsley told a Pontiac, Michigan small claims court judge that Wojciechowski retains possession of my surgically extracted testicles, preserved in a mason jar, kept in the fridge next to the eggs. She demanded the immediate return of my human remains specimen and damages of $6,500. Wojciechowski, in the meantime, I don't know if he's holding a straight face or not, or just grossed out and repulsed whatsoever, filed a counterclaim, also seeking $6,500 in damages because he claims he was humiliated by the news coverage over their feud. Judge Jeremy Bowie told Kingsley there wasn't much that could be done now that the testicles were tossed, better than the salad, and questioned whether or where she got the $6,500 amount. Specifically, why I asked you, in quotes, I put a dollar amount on, say, if you were missing work at $16 an hour, Bowie said. But as to testicles, I can't really put a number on it. Kingsley, who clung to her small service dog during the criminal proceedings, said the surgery to remove her testes cost $20,000, though she admitted the surgery was paid for by the state because she is disabled. They were my testicles, she said. We're talking about my nuts here, Kingsley told the judge. I want them in my fridge, not his, she continued. He denied me access to my own body parts. I don't think that can be quantified. The damages were the loss of these nuts. Wojciechowski, by the way, has filed a personal protection order against Kingsley, which Kingsley violated in January of last year, landing her in jail for 3 days. We allow a one-time visit with a sheriff's officer in situations like that for people to go back to get their belongings, the judge said. Ms. Kingsley failed to retrieve her body parts from the refrigerator at that time. If they were so important to her, she had the opportunity to grab them, and she didn't. Wojciechowski revealed that he threw the testicles away in July because they were rotting in my fridge and it was disgusting. I've got food in there that I wanted to eat, he told the judge. She didn't keep them in a biohazard container like she was supposed to. Judge Bowie denied Kingsley's petition and ruled the case a wash after hearing testimony from the exes. Kingsley then took to Facebook, here we go, just like the Dave 101, and asked friends, why would he keep my balls in his fridge for a year and a half? She then accused him of lying about throwing away my pesty testes. Kingsley accused, I know damn well that man did not throw them away. He's a collector. People, you cannot make this up. You cannot, oh my goodness, you cannot make this up. Here we go with another one. Do you remember that lady who said she was black but wasn't? But even after DNA and her Caucasian parents said she's not black, she still denied it? That's Rachel Dolezal, and she's in trouble again. The white woman made headlines in 2015 when it emerged that she had been posting as black for years, eventually rising to become president of an NAACP chapter in Spokane, Washington. Well, let's see here. We now learned that she has an OnlyFans account and social media posted yesterday. Julie Farberick, a director for the Catalina Foothills School District, found out and said she is no longer employed due to policy violations. In 2022, a representative confirmed to TMZ that the images on OnlyFans were authentic, suggesting Dolezal took the photos to pay homage to pop star Rihanna's lingerie line. One snap featured Dolezal's naked booty with a tattoo that says justice on it. The Montana-born academic's racial antics were outed by her parents. I think Rachel has tried to damage her biological family, and those kind of claims, as false as they were, seemed to serve her purposes in her mind, which led to eventually needing money and OnlyFans. That is your weird news of the week. You can't make this stuff up, so be careful. Don't become a headline. We don't want to be mentioning your story on this show, especially if it's a weirdo one, just like those two. And by goodness, keep your testes out of the fridge. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter or X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
We're watching.
we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home.
I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Who puts their testicles in the fridge? Seriously. How demented do you have to be to say, hey, my beans are going in the fridge in a mason jar? I don't get that. There's seriously a mental issue with that. if I say lost a finger or a toe or a leg or even a nut, there is no way that I would say, hey, I'm going to store this in my fridge. When my child lost a tooth to the tooth fairy, I didn't put his teeth in the fridge. Who does that? And no, I'm not repulsed because the person was trans. Just for the record, because now you have to state that. Okay? I could care less if the person was trans. Good on them for finding themselves. Okay? We're allowed to be humans, no matter who you are. But nonetheless, I do have an issue with storing body appendages in the fridge. That's very Dahmer-esque. Like, are you going to make a chili one day and say, oh, maybe I need a little nut spice in there? I don't think there's a nut fairy, Philip Blair. I really don't. Well, that's different. Okay, serrated grin. Or sorry, who made that? Christine. My aunt stored male horse semen in her fridge for her female horses. That's okay. I wouldn't put it in my personal fridge. I'd have a fridge in the garage or the barn for that. I don't know. Nut spice. That's right. Canna Chef Chris, you can use that when you're cooking up. Hey, next time you're doing up a dinner, because I'm going to assume that you're a chef there by your name, unless you're French by chef being chief. Maybe you could clarify that. But if you are a chef, I would say you could use that. You know, maybe put that on the menu. You know, you know, a new spice to put in some hollandaise or something. Hey, Stu effing Gerson. How you doing? Heavy on the effing. Lex, I think there's a lot more unwoke than woke. I would say much on Twitter is woke. There are people who try to be woke but fail at it. I would say for the most part, no. See? What is your, hold on, what is your, I'm just going to put you up there. Oh, that's a skull. That's what that is. Hey, my brother Eugene, how you doing, my man? Much love to you. I hope you're doing well, both you and your son. Like, she didn't even have her nuts in formaldehyde. Good night, Lex Diaz. Have a good night. As for the scientists at Area 51, Lex, if you're still listening, I don't think they're woke or religious. I think that their job is at the task at hand, and they have a job to do, and that's what they're going to do. Good night, Stu Effin Gerson. All right, everybody. That time of the night to say good night to all of you. Thank you for the love. Thank you to the support of Kira T-Bone Aloha, Dave, Polaris, W. Decker, Jennifer, and Major Lee. Very much appreciate the love, everybody. Tomorrow night of the show, Jackie Harmon will be talking West Coast Sasquatch. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun with her tomorrow night. And hope you enjoy. Don't forget to come back tomorrow. And don't forget, if you're coming to Reno, May 10th through 12th, hit us up at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com, and we can reserve your tickets today. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming on in. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.